Some shows talk about one team. Other shows barely talk sports. This show will talk Packers, Brewers, and Bucks every day. It's Wisconsin Sports Daily with Steve Sparky Pfeiffer, served up by Wendy's on the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network. Download the Wendy's app today.
It is that time again, as Steve Sparky Pfeiffer likes to say. I am not Steve Sparky Pfeiffer. Welcome into Wisconsin Sports Daily, served up by Wendy's. Tommy Wirtz in for Mr. Fife, alongside Charlie Hughes and Big Chuck. What's going on today, Charles?
It's cold.
It is cold.
I'm a pretty warm-blooded person, probably the second most warm-blooded person here on the network. I think Brandon, he wears shorts every day.
He was wearing pants today. You saw that?
I didn't even notice.
Yeah,
I'm so used to him wearing shorts all the time.
I don't know if he did earlier in the week, but I saw him wearing sweatpants today, and I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm not used to not seeing your calves.
But I am not ready for tomorrow at all.
No.
I'm probably just going to come in here and complain about how cold it is again.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what? That's what I get for living in Wisconsin.
And on top of it, Big Chuck, it's just going to be you, me, and Sparky.
Mm-hmm.
Like the entire, like after 10 o'clock, like no one else will be here anymore. No one else is going to have to come in and suffer through this. Make sure you start your car like tonight. Just get it, see if it warms up a little bit.
Car,
yeah, right. Like, because I have to do the same thing as well. It is Wisconsin Sports Daily. Tommy Wirtz in for Steve Sparky Pfeiffer. If you want to join the program at all today, 414-677-1250. A lot that we can talk about together today, people. Coming up on the program, Eli Berkovitz going to join the show in about 15 minutes or so. We're going to talk a little bit about this Packers defensive coordinator search. Jack Stern of Brewer Fanatic going to join us at the top of the 3 o'clock hour because at the top of the 2 o'clock hour, we are going to talk about Freddie Peralta, the trade over to the New York Mets. Giannis will not shut up. Charlie Sounds of the Day, of course, going to come up later. The Green and Gold update today. I want to ask, do you care about previous play calling experience for the defensive coordinator? Whether that is at the head coach level, at the coordinator level. It's a question that got brought up a little bit on the Mason Crosby show earlier that I think we can get a topic out of at the top of the 4 o'clock hour. That being said, the biggest story in Wisconsin sports happening yesterday was the departure of Freddie Peralta to the New York Mets. Now, we learned about this deal happening earlier in the day, that they were trying to just finalize it, it sounds like. The deal was for Freddie Peralta, Jet Williams, and Brandon Sprout were all a part of it, and we didn't know the final details quite yet. It turns out it was Tobias Myers going along with Freddie Peralta. 414-677-1250, the number to join the show. What is your reactions to Freddie Peralta being traded to the New York Mets? There was a lot of talk about it on Twitter, and it did seem fairly 50-50 on, all right, I think that it's a good move for the future. I like the return. And the other half was, this team is unserious. This is a BS move. You went out and you were right there in 2025, maybe not quite with the Dodgers running into them, but you were in the NLCS. You get swept by them, and now you're giving away your best pitcher to give you the best chance in 2026. 414-677-1250. Chuck, where were you when Freddie Peralta got traded?
I was just hanging out, playing MLB The Show, actually.
Nice.
I'm on the Angels, Fred Powers, first baseman.
Fred Powers?
Yeah,
okay. Nice.
Awesome
I like it.
Yeah,
I like it.
Thank you.
Your initial reactions to the move?
My initial reaction to the move, I was pretty excited about it. I think when you compare it to some of the trades that the Milwaukee Brewers have made with their superstar type players in the past few years, Corbin Burns, Devin Williams, Josh Hader even, I think all those trades, they were not as good as this one. You're getting 2 top 5 prospects in an organization where their farm system is not the best in the league, but is still pretty strong, especially at the top end of that group. And then also 2 top 100 guys coming back as well. Both of these guys, I think, would be able to help the Milwaukee Brewers in this upcoming season. Sprout looks like an MLB level pitcher already. I think he was the most MLB ready out of all the guys that the New York Mets had to offer, even though he doesn't have the same kind of upside as maybe a Tong or McLean. I think this is something where he fits better in kind of replacing Freddie Peralta or helping replace Freddie Peralta. And then Jet Williams, I think, comes in and fits really well within this group, wherever you want to put him, whether that's the middle infield or that corner outfield.
Yeah. And on top of this, I don't know how much of that was something. McLean and Tong, it sounds like, were never on the table. Those are their two higher pitching prospects in New York. I don't know how much of a priority it was. Sure seems like it was if they just kept asking around. I don't know if they really needed all of that return in the starting pitching department for Freddie Peralta. I think that they are just stacked at the position in itself. And I think that Freddie Peralta is a guy that, thank you for your service. I mean, awesome for what he did, and absolutely should be talked about as like a Brewer legend of this time.
He's not going to be able to be Wall of Fame, though. Did you see that?
Is that real?
I think that's real.
Is that real? Because CC Sabathia is going into the Wall of Honor this year because he's in the Hall of Fame and he pitched for 6 months, not even, with the Brewers.
I don't. Maybe they make an exception or something. But I think by the actual rules, he's not eligible for.
Right. I saw that he's 69 innings short of 1,000, and that's supposed to be the threshold. I think that gets changed. I think he's third most in strikeouts in Brewers history, if I remember. And I know he leads in K per nine. He's in the top 10 in wins for pitchers as well. The return itself, like you said, Brandon Spratt and Jet Williams, it comes in. Spratt had some major league experience last year, 1.21 whip in about 20 innings worth of work, a 4.79 ERA. Williams yet to make his major league debut, but last year in AAA, a 718 OPS, hit 7 homers, AA in Binghamton. He was having a much better time as well. Let's head out to the phone lines right away. 414-677-1250 is the Nicolay Law Fan Talk and Text line. Al is in Cedarburg. What's up, Al? How we doing?
Doing well, Tommy. Charlie, how about you guys?
We're doing great. Your reactions to the Freddie Peralta move, Al?
In basic sense, I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
Tommy, you hit on it just as the show was opening. This is the Brewers model. They know when they have a guy entering his last year, why not sell high and capitalize on the value? So I'm not surprised at all. And then Charlie, we're in sync as always, my man. This was the best return that we have gotten out of our last 3 trades. I mean, when you look at Jet, you already mentioned he's a top 30 prospect. He's a little bit smaller, but he plays multiple positions. He's really good defensively, and he's got good bat-to-ball skills. Like, that screams Milwaukee Brewers.
Yeah, and he can run around a little bit. He puts the ball in play. If they're trying to go through this identity, Al, you're hitting it right on the head too, my man.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. And then when it comes to Sprout, I haven't heard many people talk about this, but if you take a look at his pitches and his analytics over the course of his little bit of time that he was called up, there's a lot of potential there, and people aren't then this is what I mean by not talked about enough. With our pitching lab that we have, look at the results that we've gotten out of guys. And I think that's an untapped resource that's not really talked about enough, is that we can take guys and maximize their value. So I think this is going to turn out a lot better than people are thinking.
Yeah, well, and to your point, Al, thanks for the call. Don't be a stranger, my man. This is gonna turn into a Quinn Priester move. This is exactly what's gonna turn into. Is you got a guy here who throws a lot of sinkers. He's got a high ground ball rate. He gets a lot of swing and miss on his stuff. He misses a lot of barrels. Last year, in the 97th percentile of his short time in Major League Baseball in missing barrels. Like this is a 50% ground ball pitcher. You aren't bringing this guy necessarily in to go out and strike out the side like Freddie Peralta could have done, but you are bringing him in to maintain longevity out there like Quinn Priester does, Charlie.
Which I think is one of the most important things that was needed at the end of the season for this Milwaukee Brewers team, is having guys that can go that 6+ innings if you need them to. As long as Brandon Woodruff is healthy, I think he can do that. Quinn Priester can do that. You needed 1 to 2 other guys, because I don't think Jacob Mizorowski right now can do that, and Logan Henderson hasn't been healthy enough to be able to do that.
The pitch mix as well for Spratt. Sinker, sweeper, changeup, curveball, 4-seam, slider. What's missing from there, Charlie?
Say it again.
sinker, sweeper, changeup, curveball, four seam, slider. Do you know the answer I'm thinking of? Because Chris Hook he will get a cutter by next year.
Yeah.
Every guy who comes in learns this cut. Chad Patrick's cutter became disgusting after Chris Hook. Like, he's only going to get more. I'm really like the Jet Williams pickup. It's a little strange because they have an absolute logjam at shortstop now for the future. You got Mate, you got Pena, you got Cooper Pratt. You now you got Jet Williams, and I know Jet, they're profiling him as a second baseman, but let's just call it middle infield for what it is, because one of those four are competing for two spots, and meanwhile there's a guy like Bryce Terang who you would love to see be a part of the future as well of this team. Williams has a little bit of outfield flexibility, but again, like, this is going to be a perfect segue. If I want a 5'7" guy playing the outfield, I got Sal Frelick already on this team, and Ron is in Rome. And I'm reading your note here, Ron. You don't seem like you're very happy about the Jet Williams part of this trade.
Well, it might turn out great, but the first thing I read is we got a 5'7" infielder.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, deja vu all over again. And
right.
And then the nail in there in that coffin is when I read, but he has pop.
Yeah.
I don't want to read about any 5'7" guys with pop. That means they're swinging for the fences, and and they're striking out. And so, if he was Andrew Vaughn size, that would be like a backup for another power hitter. So the main thing I wanted was at least a 260 hitter that puts the ball in contact. If we could get a power hitter, great. I personally feel that Yelich is having back problems, and he's going to be more like September than he's going to be like August. So we need a good contact hitter that can hit RBIs, and if they can do that with him, fine. But I just really would have wanted a bigger guy. And
what do you think about just the loss of Freddie, Ron? Is that something that you think is going to be tough to overcome for this Brewers team?
Well, I'm 69 years old. If I was like in my 20s, like, oh yeah, we got plenty of time. We can get what we're getting for the future.
Mm-hmm.
For me, the future is now.
Sure.
I mean, how many years do I have to be? Hey, we're getting good. We just lost an all-star, and it's just the same every year. And I understand it's because of the payroll disparity. And the thing that irritates me the most is when I complain about payroll disparity on social media, all these people from the big cities are like, oh, you're just a crybaby.
Right.
Like,
Ron, you know what? I echo this because I think the people who are saying like what the Brewers do and how they approach when they have stars that are due to get paid, they just get a return on investment. When I see people say like that's worse for baseball than what the Dodgers do with Kyle Tucker, that they just don't know ball. Like that is, I love that you brought that up, Ron. So thanks for the call. Have a good rest of your day, my man.
They're blaming the victim. Like, why did you punch that guy's hand with your face?
Yes, right. Yes, Ron. Thanks for the call. It is very similar to that, because that is a very dumb. The Brewers have to operate like that in order to have the last 10 years of Brewers baseball. They have to look ahead. They have to move on from these guys. And we've brought up a couple of these moves now, right? So let's look at the Corbin Burns deal, right? You get DL Hall, you get Joey Ortiz in that move. That was, I think everyone was a little underwhelmed about that return on investment in the moment even. And it's still, the jury is out. Joey Ortiz has had one solid year, one really bad year. DL Hall has never really been great as a starter, but he's been really good as that guy coming out of the bullpen, the first man up. The jury's still quite out on that. The Devin Williams move, right? You get Caleb Durbin out of that, and who is why is it escaping me? Oh, and Nestor Cortez, right? Yeah. Jake Bowers has pitched more innings for the Brewers than Nestor Cortez has. So it was a weird move in that maze. But here's the thing. You cannot, even though it is the best return on investment they've gotten from a trade, if you want to stay relevant as much as possible in season, Charlie, you can't do another hater move. Mm-hmm. The hater move destroyed the clubhouse. The hater move, everyone was shook in that clubhouse. And you can't have that happen again. This move had to happen if he was going to leave, or you had to Willy Adames get the comp pick for it.
Well, and now again, you get time to reset that locker room before spring training here. And if you do need to make a move in the middle of the season, you have a stockpile of prospects that haven't touched the MLB roster yet, that don't have the same kind of relationship, that won't have the same type of effect on the locker room. If you do need to make kind of a blockbuster trade yourself, then too.
Yeah, let's get back out to these phone lines. Brian, you're the first one up in McGuanago. Brian, how are we doing today?
Hey guys, hey, thanks for taking my call.
Yeah.
I finally figured out what the Brewer and Matt Arnold's motive is. Since the Milwaukee Brewers are never going to get to the World Series, they're going to give Milwaukee the version of the Little League World Series, where everybody's going to have the height that can't meet the sheriff's department's qualifications.
I mean, why does everyone hate how tall this guy is, man? Like,
I'm not, but you
Jose
guys,
Altuve is going to the Hall of Fame.
Ozzy
Brian.
Albies is a consistent 15 home run a year guy.
If he hits the ball, he hits the ball. Like, can we call him short if he stinks? Like, let's let him play first.
How many guys that are 5'7" average 25 home runs a year?
Jose Altuve.
Altuve was the first name. There's not a lot.
Yeah. I mean, but you could. Well, if you're going to pick and choose one out of about 65,000, that's not good odds.
Do you think that Bryce Terang's going to hit more than 20 homers this year?
No.
He hit 18 last year.
He's 5'11" too.
No,
He's
I don't. No, I don't. No.
Okay.
I think he's a gap hitter. He's better off. He had a little power surge there for about 6 weeks. But you know what? You need that thumper in the lineup. You need that guy that's about 6'2", 6'3", that hits about 260 and drives in about 120 runs and hits about 35.
If those guys grew on trees, we'd be picking them.
I get it. But you're talking about Peralta. Not only was he one of two pitchers in the last 3 years to not miss much time, but have over 200 strikeouts all 3 years.
Brian, last year, Logan Webb finished one place ahead of him in the Cy Young voting. He pitched 34 games. Freddie Peralta pitched 33 games. That is the best thing about Freddie Peralta. He took the ball every 5 days.
That's my
100%. Here's the other thing, Brian. Logan Webb pitched 30 more innings than him, even though he only had one more game. That's a huge number, Brian. That's 5 outings.
But he's been consistent, and not only that, he's been there before in the big game.
Yeah.
He's been there. You can't replace that. To trade him for prospects, what are prospects? It's like a number one draft pick in the NFL. How many number one busts have been in the NFL? That's just a word. It's all about coaching and development, and that's what the Brewers do fairly well. I give them credit.
Yeah.
But we don't need somebody that's going to play shortstop and hit 13 home runs and strike out 165
Absolutely.
times.
Brian, I got to let you go. I'm against the clock here. Thanks for the call. I got one more I want to get to. Eli's going to be super late, and I feel like, was it Eli that you were talking about? You were always late. I should move on. Ryan is in Burlington. Ryan, you're on Wisconsin Sports Daily. What's up, boss?
Hey, what's up, man? Hey, oh my God, these guys are fools. These are the same people that probably think bunting a man over to second is the right thing to do. 5'7" doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And I think it was Ron that called. This is exactly the guy that you said you wish he was. He's a 260 to 270 hitter. He's got a career on base in the minors of 389.
Yep.
He's a blazer. He's 34 stolen bases, 17 home runs last year. I don't care if he's 5'2". Like, at the end of the day, if he can play center, play up the middle, which is the strength of the Brewers always, that's the kind of guy you want. The days of the 6'2", 260, yeah, do I want a guy who can drive in 120 RBIs and 35 home runs? Yep. We don't have $230 million to pay him. So, and then the Peralta thing, like, come on, people. His time was up. We don't have the money to pay him. He wasn't going to stay here, and you're exactly right. We start off hot, and he's in the lineup. We're going to get nothing for him, and we can't do a hater thing. He had to go. We got a great deal for him. Will it work out? We don't know. But the players that they got are fantastic prospects, and makes our team even stronger in the future.
Absolutely, Ryan. Thanks for the call, man. Beautifully said. Let's keep it moving. We'll have a lot of Freddie Peralta. You want to call in eventually for sure. Text in 414-677-1250. The Nicolay Law Talk and text line. The only thing better than that trade yesterday for me was eating at Wendy's, right? I mean, what a segue right there. Wendy's, now you can earn while you eat. Yes, Wendy's rewards. The entire menu is up for grabs too. Whatever food you order directly through the Wendy's app, you can it counts towards your restaurant food. So every dollar you spend, you'll earn 10 points. You can place your order for pickup or delivery with the Wendy's app or at the website, and then you're good. It's literally all you have to do. Mobile and website orders, add rewards points automatically. Done and done. It is the best, and it's so easy. All right? Wendy's Rewards. Eli Berkovitz coming up in 5 minutes here. Quick break, and then we'll talk to him a little bit about some of these defensive coordinator candidates. Al Harris getting the interview. It's Wisconsin sports. We got to talk Packers. Wisconsin Sports Daily, live from the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. Welcome back, Wisconsin Sports Daily. Tommy Wirtz in for Steve Sparky Pfeiffer, served up by Wendy's. I have no idea who had this chair before me because Mitch Nellis stands. This is way too short. Like I just feel like I feel like I'm Jet Williams right now, apparently, with all of this talk. A couple of texts before we get over to Eli here, because text line blowing up. My favorite, like, hero arc is JB in the 920 on this show.
Right.
He said, he calls in, he chimes in, because being so tall helps Ellie De La Cruz help him not make an error in again. That was great. The 224, this Peralta trade will work out as well for the Brewers as it did for Damian Lillard and the Bucks. Yikes. Okay. The 715 says, yeah, thanks for the call. Then hang up on him. That was 9 minutes ago. I think he's talking about Brian. And then he proceeds right after Ryan had the best call of the day. I wouldn't have been able to get to Ryan if I didn't hang up on Brian. I'm sorry. We have a time crunch here. And on top of that, we got to get into our next topic. Joining us now on the guest hotline, powered by Gruber Law. One call, that's all. From Packer Report, you can follow him on Twitter at Book of Eli _NFL. It is Eli Berkovitz joining us here. How are we doing today, Eli?
I am doing good. I am very excited. Obviously, it's always sad when the Packers season ends, but I love the NFL draft. I love the entire NFL draft season. So I'm looking forward to diving into the class and heading down to Mobile next week to attend the Senior Bowl and be there for all the practices and kind of get my eyes on the guys.
Yeah. What are you looking for Green Bay specifically when you're going to go down to the Senior Bowl? Because I think we're going to have you on the Mason Crosby show when you come back from there to see, you can go down and report on what you saw down there in Mobile. But like, just before we get into some more Packers topics, like the draft, it's hard to get into this year without a first round pick, right? It's hard to think about what you can look for later on in the draft. But the Senior Bowl is a great place to do that. What are you expecting, and what are you looking for to help Green Bay's needs in 26?
I think, obviously not having a first-round pick, it's tough. Guys, everyone loves to do mock drafts, and it's just like waiting until the second round. And let's be real, it's very hard to project who's going to be there in the second round. It's hard enough to project who's going to be there in the mid-20s where the Packers usually pick. But let's be real, Brian Gutekunst makes most of his best picks on days 2 and 3 of the draft. So I don't think it should be the kind of thing where Packer fans are like, oh, well, no first round pick, so don't even care about the draft. Like, let's be real. Most Packers first round picks make little to no impact in the first year, or even more than the first year of their career, which is just unfortunate. So I'm not looking at this year's class any differently just because there's no first round pick. And what I do really like about this year's class is the cornerback class is very good at the top, and it is very deep. And we know the Packers need cornerbacks. I think they could end up drafting 2, if not 3 cornerbacks in this year's class. We've seen Goody really like when he decides he's in on a position, he kind of attacks it. We've seen him draft 3 receivers in the single draft. We've seen him draft 3 safeties in a single draft 3+ offensive linemen in a single draft. So this is the kind of class where if you want to knock out the cornerback position and feel like you really took some swings, it's a good year to do it.
Yeah, and on top of that, maybe hindsight move. They only drafted 1 last year, and it was a late round pick. Probably going to have to go all in on it this year in some capacity. How much of that would be swayed based on who they elect as the next defensive coordinator? Let's say a la Al Harris. If he were to get in there for Green Bay, just give me the reactions on him and getting the potential candidates in a row here now. Al Harris interviewed yesterday. Jonathan Gannon has interviewed as well in this. A couple other ones, Durante from Minnesota, and then what was the last one? I can't remember now. They've had 4 guys come in an interview, but it seems like the 2 names everyone wants to talk about are Al Harris and Jonathan Gannon right now, Eli.
Yeah, so first off, I think obviously whoever they hire as defensive coordinator will definitely have a big impact. Not necessarily in they're definitely drafting cornerbacks. It would be shocking if they don't, but I'm sure he'll have a say in what kind of cornerback they draft. But that being said, so the 4th interview was Christian Parker, someone I really liked, but he just got the Cowboys defensive coordinator job.
Right, that's what it was.
Which I'm pretty disappointed about because I would have been more than happy if they hired him. So now, like you said, I think most people are turning their attention to Jonathan Gannon and Al Harris. And maybe, you know, it's the Packer fan and all of us where it's like, it would be so cool to have Al Harris back. But I don't think that's just a fan kind of thought. Like, he's done very well in Dallas. He's clearly done well in Chicago. They led the league in turnovers. Dallas, when he was there, was constantly leading or top 5 in turnovers forced. He's a very smart defensive mind. And yeah, I mean, I think anyone would be lying if they didn't say on some level, you know, Al Harris, Packer Hall of Famer, that's a part of it. But I don't think it's like, well, this guy's coaching some awful defenses, but he used to be a Packer, so let's get him in the room. Like, no, I think he deserves to be a defensive coordinator somewhere in the NFL pretty soon, if not this year. And I think it would line up really nicely if it ended up being for the Packers.
Eli, do you feel like you have that same kind of sentiment with a guy like Jim Leonard, who also is a Wisconsin guy, has that same kind of tie back to the state, and a lot of people are a fan of? He went through that first round of coordinator hiring when they fired Joe Barry.
Yep.
Do you think this is a guy that you feel the same towards, kind of like Al Harris, even though a lot of it is tied to he has that storyline coming back to Wisconsin?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a bit weird that Leonard, I mean, reportedly kind of like turned down the job. I think he was offered the job and turned it down. And then I feel like by now I thought he would have for sure been a defensive coordinator somewhere, and maybe even more. Like, if he was a coordinator a couple years ago and it went well, maybe he's already a head coach. So I'm kind of like wondering, maybe the league doesn't have the same opinion of Jim Leonard as a lot of Packer fans do. But that being said, he has been a part of some very good defenses, whether it's in college or the NFL. And I think he's a very bright guy. Obviously, they can't interview him while the Broncos are still in the playoffs right now. But I'm sure the Packers are waiting until, you know, let's be real, Broncos likely are not going to pull off an upset win with Jarrett Stidham. Who knows? But it's pretty unlikely. So I'm sure by next Monday or Tuesday, LaFleur will probably interview Jim Leonard, and then this process will really start to get heated up.
Eli Berkovitz on Wisconsin Sports Daily, joining us here on the guest hotline, powered by Gruber Law. One call, that's all. Eli, I want to jump back because we got a question in on the YouTube chat that I think is cool to go ahead. Brett writes in, can you ask Eli the lack of underclassmen at the top of this draft? Does that make this draft class better or worse in your mind for Green Bay?
I generally prefer guys with more experience than not. Like, yes, it's nice to draft a younger prospect. It gives you more room for growth, and obviously just being younger, you know, healthier usually, all that. But I also think for a team in what we consider to be a championship window, I want to be drafting guys that could come out and really make an impact in year one. When you draft a guy who's 20, 21, they're still, I mean, they're not even like fully developed, like grown human beings yet. Like, obviously these are massive men compared to, you know, a person like probably all of us. But when you're 23, 24, and, you know, in college now, guys are in college till even 25, you know, that's already where it's like, are you maybe a little bit too old? But I do generally prefer a player to have at least 3-4 years under his belt, be 23, be 24. And again, maybe that's just coming at it as the Packers, like, because they're contenders. You know, if you're a team that's a couple years out, I don't think there's anything wrong with drafting a younger prospect.
We're going to do this as a topic later on in the show, but I'm going to ask you the question. Maybe we'll play it back for people. We'll open it up for the phone lines. I want to know if previous defensive play calling experience matters to you or not, because Matt LaFleur obviously was in full control of the offense over the last, you know, however long he's been here now. Maybe since Aaron's been gone is probably a better way to say it than just the last 2 or 3 years. And Jeff Hafley had full control over the defense during that time. If you go with a guy like Jonathan Gannon, he has that previous experience in the NFL on whatever level you like, whether it's the Eagles as the coordinator or at Arizona as the head coach. Well, a guy like Al Harris, he doesn't have that experience. He hasn't had that opportunity, but maybe you're looking for a guy with a new perspective, a little bit younger, and maybe it benefits Matt LaFleur because if it's a guy who hasn't had that experience before, you can maybe get a little more input if you want to say something as well.
Yeah, I like the idea of experience, right? Where it's like, you don't want a guy necessarily, you bring him in and it's like, ooh, wow, this guy maybe is not prepared to be calling plays right now. But at the same time, I also think there's something to finding a guy at the right time in his career before he becomes a play caller and you getting kind of his first crack at it. And if it goes well, like there's almost something about like the unknown, which could it go wrong? Sure. But if it goes right, it could, like, let's be real. I think when they hired Jeff Hafley, even though at Boston College, I'm sure he was calling defensive plays, but I don't think anyone saw that hire coming. I know I personally did, and everyone was this name, that. All of a sudden, it's like Jeff, like a lot of people are like, who even is Jeff Hafley? And obviously it worked out very well. So I think whether it's Al Harris, Jim Leonard, like these guys, they could come in and maybe it will be their first time calling plays, but I don't necessarily mind that. But then again, like Jonathan Gannon, it did not go great, his tenure in Arizona. I think a lot of that had to do with the roster. Obviously, Kyler Murray was in and out of the lineup with injury, but he's a good defensive coordinator. When he was with the Eagles, there was a reason why they were in the Super Bowl. They were constantly attacking the quarterback, turning the ball over. The Packers struggled to move the ball against the Cardinals this year. I mean, they won that game, but it was very, very close, as I'm sure most of you remember. So Gannon, he probably wouldn't be my first choice of who's left right now, but he certainly isn't my last, and I wouldn't be, upset if that's where he ended up going.
When we talk about guys with experience, Eli, another name that I think more fans have brought up than actual like writers or anything like that is Raheem Morris. Do you think he has the same kind of play calling aptitude that you see in a Jonathan Gannon? And why do you think he's not getting the same kind of buzz despite a lot of people feeling like he's a top candidate for this position?
Yeah, I think Morris is right now, I think he's holding out hope for getting another head coaching job, but assuming that doesn't happen, I think, he's definitely going to be brought in for an interview. We all know LaFleur's history with Morris. They're good friends. They work together in Washington. And Morris, again, and like Gannon, right? You could say his tenure with the Falcons wasn't perfect as a head coach, but he's had a ton of success as defensive coordinator in the NFL. This year the Falcons had a very young and sort of inexperienced defense, and they were, I think they were top 5 in sacks. A lot of the turn, Xavier Watts, a rookie safety, had one of the best years of any rookie defensive back. Obviously, you had James Pierce and Jalen Walker, the 2 edge rushers, had really impressive seasons. So I think Raheem Morris is also a very good defensive coordinator. There are things where it's like, when guys are kind of like retreads and they're in their second, third, fourth spot, they kind of lose their shine where it's like, well, we know what you are, and maybe it's not the best, maybe it's not the worst. It feels a little bit boring. But I think you give Raheem Morris a good defense, and he could take it from good to great or middle of the pack to good. Like, I do think he is the kind of defensive coordinator who can elevate the players that he's working with.
Eli Berkovitz joining us here on Wisconsin Sports Daily, 24/7 Sports Packer Report as well. Let's go to the next question we have over here. Good last name here, Mike chiming in. How about we talk about some other coaches here? Special teams coordinator. I can't believe we still have like Rich Bisaccia. We haven't gotten any news on this at all. Where are you at with the special teams coordinator and the kicking situation in Green Bay, or any other assistant head coaches for that matter? Eli, who else should Green Bay be targeting? Who else do you like? What else should be a priority for this team?
Yeah, Mike, great question. But no, look, I'll be honest. I'm not going to pretend that I have like a list of a bunch of special teams coordinator names. I did think that the Steelers defense special teams coordinator could have been a good option before he went to Tampa Bay. He's just been around the league for decades, and I think he has great experience. Pittsburgh, whether it was defense or special teams, always managed to seem to make plays in those parts of the game with an offense that usually wasn't that great and win games because of the other parts of the game. But like you said, I don't know how the season ended. What is it now? A week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago? And Rich Bisaccia is still the guy. Like, it's like that was for me a big part of why I had my doubts about LaFleur. I feel like there's a part of him that doesn't want to have these difficult conversations. And I could be way off base, but it's like, whether you might love Rich Bisaccia, the greatest guy in the world. I've met him at a couple Packers training camps, and he is a super nice guy. But it's like, when year after year after year, you are bottom 3 in special teams in nearly every statistic, and year after year after year, you have games and sometimes even playoff games lost because of major special teams errors, it's like someone has to be held accountable. And whether or not you think Rich Bisaccia is great at his job, if his unit is consistently letting the team down, you have to address it. And one thing I'll give him credit for, and I feel like no one talked about it, I didn't bring it up on Twitter because I didn't want to jinx it, but the Packers happened to be this year, their coverage units were fantastic. On kickoff and punt returns, they didn't give up. I think I looked, the longest kickoff return they gave up this year was 50 yards, and they only gave up one other return of 40-plus yards. So that was impressive. I'll give him that. But when you had the back and forth of McManus and Haversick and the missed kicks and the blocked kicks and having 10 guys on the field on multiple field goal block attempts, where it's like, these are like basic things. And your coordinator who's been in the league for years and years and years, how does this continue to happen? So it's very frustrating. I hope that LaFleur's maybe just like waiting, I don't know, to bring in the defensive coordinator, figure out offensive coordinator. But unfortunately, at this point, I'm sort of leaning that he's just running it back with Bisaccia and Stenovich, because otherwise, what are you waiting for? Other guys are getting jobs. You're losing out on candidates. It doesn't make any sense. And then in terms of the kicker, look, I was someone who was like, I have faith in McManus. He's a good kicker. He was so good for us last year. The only reason he was struggling this year is he was hurt. I've lost that faith. I don't know how you could run it back with him. You want to bring him back to camp. He's under contract, so you don't want to cut him and let him compete for the job? Sure. But if I'm the Packers, I'm signing an undrafted rookie free agent kicker after the draft, bringing him in and letting him compete. I would even let Lucas Haversick come back and compete. I don't know how you can bring McManus back. It's just like sometimes with kickers, it's like, it's a mental thing. And when you do what he did in that playoff game, that's a hard thing to come back from with the same organization.
100%, Eli. So if Rich Bisaccia is not the special teams coordinator moving forward here, and then that means he's not the assistant head coach, does that just mean the next special teams coordinator is automatically kind of in that assistant head coach position? Is it the next defensive coordinator? And then what does that role look like now that, the system's kind of changed a little bit, new contract with Matt LaFleur, new goals? What does that assistant head coach position, what is that going to be for Matt LaFleur moving forward here?
Yeah, I think a big part of LaFleur's love for Bisaccia is his experience, right? Someone he can lean on who's seen everything you're going to see in the NFL because he's been doing it for so long. And I do think that's valuable, but I don't necessarily think, I don't know how many teams are like, this guy's assistant head coach. He has a assistant head coach role. I don't think it's a bad thing to have, but I don't think it's necessary either. So, I hope he's not looking around if he does move on from Bisaccia, where it's like, well, I need a guy, in his 60s who's seen it all. Even if, let's say, they kept Stenovich, he's been around a long time. If you wanted to make him assistant head coach, I guess that's fine too. But overall, I don't think it's necessary. I don't think you need to have whoever you hire next, this guy's got to be the assistant head coach. But look, I think LaFleur could certainly at times use help in the game management department from someone who has maybe been around a little longer than he has.
Eli, thank you so much for popping on today, my man. Where can people find all your great work? I'm sure you're going to be updating us all week with what you're doing down in Mobile at the Senior Bowl. Let the people know where they can find your stuff.
Yep, as it says there at the bottom of the screen, but for all the listeners, my writing over at Packer Report, I'm actually currently in middle of writing a bit of a preview piece for the Senior Bowl. Some of the players I'm most excited to look out for that I think the Packers would have interest in that should be there on day 2 of the draft. So you'll find that on Packer Report probably coming up this weekend, Friday or Saturday. And then all my work over on Twitter at Book of Eli _NFL. And like you said, all next week, I'll be posting video content, written content, all sorts of updates from down at the Senior Bowl. So if you're into the draft, make sure to come, give me a follow. I'm going to get you as much content as I can.
Perfect. We'll catch up again soon, Eli. Thanks, my man.
Thanks, guys.
There he is, Eli Berkovitz on the guest hotline powered by Gruber Law. One call. That's all. We got to hit a break here. On the other side, we'll do a little bit of Freddie Peralta tease. I don't want you to quite call in yet because we're going to have Jack Stern again at 3:00, and we'll open it back up in the 3:00 hour at some point here. It is Wisconsin Sports Daily, served up by Wendy's, live from the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. Welcome back, Wisconsin Sports Wrap Up. Nope, daily. That's what happens when you host 72 shows on the network there. Wisconsin Sports Daily served up by Wendy's. It's not 5 o'clock yet.
Close.
Coming up on Wisconsin Sports Wrap Up today, if you missed Eli Berkovitz, he'll be on there. Trey Crosby, Cream City Crossover, was on earlier today. And Lane Grindle, all talking about this. Charlie, earlier, about 25 minutes or so ago, we saw a deal come through for Mackenzie Gore going to Texas, and it sounds like they got a haul, my man.
The Nationals did indeed. Third baseman Gavin Feen, shortstop Devin Fitzgerald, right-handed pitcher Alejandro Rosario, first baseman Abamalik, if someone wants to tell me how to say that.
Yeah, nailed it.
Let me try. Ortiz and outfielder Yeremy Cabrera, 5 prospects. Feen, according to Jeff Passan, was the 12th pick last year, and evaluators, scouts love Fitzgerald. You still feel good about Freddie? We still feeling as nice? Let me go look at where these guys are.
Yeah, I don't know if these are like let's see if they're top 100 guys, right? But the haul itself, yeah, 5 prospects for 1 pitcher. That's crazy. The Rangers obviously, or the Nationals rather, trying to maybe take a Brewers approach and get their farm all situated. After hearing that move, though, it's hard to not think that, well, the Brewers had to give up 2 major leaguers, one being the best from there, to get 2 guys who are projects in this deal now for Milwaukee. Big haul there for the Nationals to get that done.
Yeah, the Nationals got some pretty good pieces. Gavin Feen's the number 2 prospect for the Rangers there. Alejandro Rosario, the pitcher, is the number 6 prospect. Devin Fitzgerald is number 12. Yeremy Cabrera is number 16. And Abamalik Ortiz is number 18. So all top 20 prospects
All
in the
top
Rangers organization.
In the Nationals or
in the Rangers.
They were in the Rangers, and now okay. Yeah, that's a lot of top 20 prospects. Although, and then again, there were 2 top 5 prospects for Freddie Peralta during that. So it's a big haul. It's a new move that we will talk to Jack Stern, a Brewer fanatic, about to see if there is something to be upset about when you hear that move and looking back at it with Freddie Peralta's deal to the New York Mets yesterday. 414-677-1250. Text in your thoughts on that. We will take your calls after Jack Stern as well, as we'll talk some more Brewers baseball all throughout today. Want to remind everyone, the Potawatomi Sportsbook, can you feel it? The thrill of witnessing a walk-off grand slam, game-winning touchdowns, butters or beater threes. You know the feeling. The only place to experience that, Potawatomi Sportsbook. Catch all the action in a supreme space with dozens of sports betting kiosks, cool drinks, luxury seating, great food, a fiery atmosphere, and a monster video wall. It's only at the Potawatomi Sportsbook. More info at potawatomi.com. You must be 21 to enter the casino. Jack Stern, Brewer fanatic, coming up next. Wisconsin Sports Daily, served up by Wendy's, live from the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook.
Some shows talk about one team. Other shows barely talk sports. This show will talk Packers, Brewers, and Bucks every day. Every day. It's Wisconsin Sports Daily with Steve Sparky Pfeiffer, served up by Wendy's on the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network. Download the Wendy's app today.
Our number 2 Wisconsin Sports Daily, served up by Wendy's. Steve Sparky Pfeiffer out today. Hope the kid's feeling a little better. Tommy Wirtz in with Big Chuck Nasty, Charles, Charlie, using Chicago Charlie. Is that dead yet?
No,
No?
I mean, not yet. Some people revive it sometimes. Some people still call me it occasionally. Sparky does it every once in a while, but not yet.
Ziggy had texted it on the talk and text line 414-677-1250. Need a special intro, and Tommy Chonga hosts up. So
okay.
We'll see if we get working on that. I don't fill in for Sparky all that often, but every once in a
I feel
while when
like-
I do.
Just like Cheech and Chong kind of works for me. We could gotta do that.
When we were asking, we needed nicknames for us when we do a show together. My mom suggested Dumb and Dumber.
Okay.
So I don't know which one you are, but that's what my mom had come up with.
I'll
today.
take the dumber. That's fine. I'm humble.
Joining us now, Smart joining Dumb and Dumber on the guest hotline powered by Gruber Law. One call. That's all. Jack Stern, Brewer Fanatic. Follow him on Twitter at @byJackStern. Mr. Stern, how are we doing today, my friend?
Oh, I'm doing great. How are you guys?
Oh, yeah, doing well. Jack, broke the internet yesterday. Freddie Peralta, no longer a Milwaukee Brewer. I want your initial reaction to what you saw as the haul for Freddie Peralta yesterday, and then now compare it to maybe how you might feel after what you saw Mackenzie Gore just brought in from Texas, as they sent over 5 prospects just in exchange for Mackenzie Gore to the Nationals.
Well, I think when I saw the package, my first reaction was maybe not quite as much as I thought in terms of what it would take to get the Brewers to actually say yes, but a fair return. They got a good, solid return for Freddie Peralta. I think it's better than what they got for certainly Devin Williams last year, because Devin Williams was a rental reliever, a closer. Better than what they got for Corbin Burns a couple of years ago as well. You know, still 2 prospects, a pitcher and a position player, but I think both of these prospects are higher caliber prospects than DL Hall and Joey Ortiz were at the time. So I think it's pretty in line with what I think Freddie's value was on the trade market. He's cheaper than Burns was 2 years ago. Hasn't vocally been talking about hitting free agency like Burns was letting on going into his trade. So I think based on that, you should have expected to get slightly higher caliber prospects. They got that. I was just wondering if maybe they would want a team to go above and beyond to really get the deal done. But apparently the Brewers felt that this offer that they got back, which again, I think it's a good return. I think it's perfectly fair, perfectly solid. I think they did pretty well here. They felt that was enough, and they were also okay with including Tobias Myers to really push it to the finish line.
Yeah, and was that a shock to you at all, that he was thrown into it at all, Jack?
A little bit, but I think in the grand scheme of things, it just doesn't change anything for the Brewers. He was so far down on the depth chart. I think that there's probably actually a better fit for him in New York than there was in Milwaukee. But as far as Gore goes, that's a different situation, because he comes with more years of club control, and that's kind of the name of the game when you're talking about what a pitcher's going to bring back. There's always going to be limits on what you can get for a rental, no matter how good that rental may be. So I still think the Brewers did pretty well here. I just thought maybe they would need like a gross overpay to really say yes. Turns out that wasn't the case, and they were okay with something that, like I said, I think is fair value for Freddie Peralta.
I think so too. So Brandon Sproat, what a lot of people have said about him as a starting pitcher compared to a Jonah Tong or a Nolan McLean is that he's the most MLB ready guy. Do you think he's somebody that can come in either in the starting rotation or in the bullpen from the opening day roster and be a part of this Brewers team? Or is he still going to need a little time to be integrated into that group? And what are your expectations for him as a prospect just moving forward with this Brewers team?
Yeah, so to me, and this might be different from how other prospect guys especially are viewing this, I think Sproat's kind of the jewel of this deal. I actually like him more than I like Jet Williams, even though Williams is the guy who's higher on a lot of prospect lists. He's got more of the hype and more of the ceiling. I think Sproat is an MLB ready starter right now. And I think he's got a lot to work with that the Brewers can kind of fashion into their mold. This is a guy who he's already got 2 fastballs. The sinker is a perfectly solid pitch. 4-seamer's not great, but it's one of those pitches where if you use it strategically, it can get a little bit of swing and miss at the top of the zone. But the big thing for me is this guy's got 3 different breaking balls, and they're all really good breaking balls. So he's already a 6-pitch guy, basically. I don't know if the Brewers are really going to want to use the changeup much because that's not something they do, especially with sinker ballers. But he's got the ability to generate all kinds of different shapes, and that bodes really well for a starting pitcher. To me, that's a sign of just a pretty well-rounded skill set and kind of a maturity on the mound. If you already have a deep arsenal, he's 25 years old. He's only pitched in 4 big league games, and things already look that good in terms of the distinct ways he can get the ball to move. And that also tells me that when a guy's able to throw that many pitches, there's room for adjustments. The Brewers can kind of tweak some things and get him to the shapes that they want. Maybe they go more of a cutter instead of the shorter slider, but there's a lot of things they can do here. And when a guy's got a deep arsenal, it's a lot easier to make him platoon proof. Because if you want to go like sinker, big sweeping slider to righties, 4-seamers, curveballs to lefties, there's a lot that I think they can do here. I just think it's a profile that they can do a really, really good job with. And I think between the 2 guys that they got back, I think they're better equipped to maximize Sproat. And I think he's going to be a guy who makes a pretty big impact early on.
Well, and Jack Stern, Brewer Fanatic, joining us here on Wisconsin Sports Daily. Follow him on Twitter @byJackStern. Follow all his work at brewerfanatic.com. Jack, I want to ask a little bit about the starting rotation depth just in general now with Sproat coming in here. We've seen the Brewers transition these starters into first guy out of the pen, DL Hall, Aaron Ashby-esque pitchers. But there's going to be ultimately 5 spots for about 8 guys. And how competitive does Sproat become when you compare him to the rest of these? I think a lot of people would like to see Logan Henderson get a shot, who's in a similar boat of Sproat. Obviously, you can chalk up, I think, Woodruff, Mizorowski, and Priester being for sure in that 3. But those last 2 spots, the Brewers have a lot of options at those positions.
Yeah, in my mind, I feel like Chad Patrick's a pretty good pick to get that 4 spot. So I think
Sure,
a lot of it comes down to that last starter spot. And I would give Sproat a leg up on some guys out of the gates. We talk about Henderson. He's still got some limitations with the arsenal. He's been working on trying to add more of a real breaking ball into his arsenal, but he's not a guy who can do that super well. He's more of a fastball changeup. And we saw that work in 5 big league starts last year because it's a very, very good fastball changeup pairing, but I still have some questions about, is he actually going to be a full-time starter, or does he need to move to the bullpen down the line? And then you kind of compare him to some other guys. Robert Gasser, I think, has a starter's arsenal, but he doesn't have a whole lot of experience. He's coming off still an injury-shortened year last year when he came back from Tommy John surgery. Coleman Crowe I like a lot, but he doesn't have a whole lot of AAA experience even because he's dealt with injuries. I think Sproat, has a leg up on quite a few of these guys going into camp. But when we talk about a long baseball season, 162 games, all of these guys are going to make starts at some point this year. And I don't think there's ever going to be a constant, number 4, number 5 starter. But if we're talking just about assuming everybody shows up to camp healthy and it's an open competition, I do feel pretty good about Sprout's ability to just jump right into that 5th spot, maybe compared to a couple other guys who probably could benefit from maybe just a little bit more time at Nashville before their opportunity comes.
So, Jack, bringing in a Jet Williams here, hopping over to the other side of this trade that the Brewers got, how does he fit into kind of this hierarchy of prospects coming up? A lot of people were hoping that we'd see Cooper Pratt at some point this season. A lot of hopefuls were thinking that Jesus Mate could maybe make an appearance towards the end of the season. Where does he slide in there? And then how does his ability to play in the outfield as well kind of lend to how quickly he gets to the major leagues, or is he kind of just right away from day one in that group at the major league level?
So I think he's going to be the guy that maybe has a little bit more to prove that he's big league ready before he gets some opportunities. He's got a high ceiling, like especially for his frame. He's not a very tall guy, so I think a lot of people.
Oh, we've heard
kind of,
everyone's pissed about that, Jack. Everyone's mad.
And I think everybody's throwing him into that Pat Murphy guy bucket of, oh, short dude who's really gritty, and that works for him because it means he gets the most out of his skills, but his skills aren't actually that great. But Williams is a little bit different. He's got more raw power than like a Caleb Durbin or a Sal Frelick, and he's shown it in the minor leagues. He hit 17 home runs last year, including 7 home runs after he was promoted to AAA, and that was in like 30 games. So it's in there. He does a really good job of leveraging it well. For me, the thing to watch is going to be the hit tool. He's had decent contact rates in the lower minors, but there are some concerns. He's got a little bit more of an uppercut swing. Does high velocity beat him at the top a little more, especially as he gets to higher levels? When he did get to AAA last year, there was a lot of swing and miss in the strike zone in a really small sample, but it was there. So I think there's more to polish up here with him in AAA. And once he does that, then where does he factor in? I would guess it's probably more of a multi-positional thing. I don't think he's really supplanting Joey Ortiz at shortstop or even supplanting Cooper Pratt as maybe the next man up at shortstop. I think it's more likely that he bounces around between a couple different spots and can fill some needs for the Brewers in season if a guy goes down with injury or if they're looking for a little more pop off the bench or in kind of like a semi-regular role where he's bouncing around. But he is the guy who I think they do need to develop a little bit more before he's quite big league ready. And he's going to be interesting to watch because we've seen the Brewers do really well with more of the scrappy contact types. Like they've turned Bryce Terang, Sal Frelick, Caleb Durbin, all those guys into not great big league hitters. Terang's got more upside because he's got more raw power that he tapped into last year. But guys who can hold their own against big league pitching. And Williams is a little different. He doesn't quite have the same level of bat to ball skills, and the guys who have slight swing and miss concerns, those are the prospects that they've struggled to develop a little bit more. So I'm very curious to see what they can do with him. But between the two guys, I think he's got the higher ceiling, and I can understand the hype around him. But I think there's more that needs to happen, and more that needs to happen in the minor leagues for him first before I'd really hand him the keys to any position.
Jack, what do you say about some of the people who are upset about the move just from a win now perspective heading into 2026? I think we can all understand that there really wasn't a trade out there for Freddie Peralta that would necessarily on paper before the season starts prove the Brewers are a better team. You're talking about a guy who took the ball every 5 days, maybe only gave you 5 innings every time, but he was very available. He was reliable, big in the clubhouse, of course, too, with his personality and his leadership. Is this something the Brewers had to do right now, or they could have taken a Willy Adames comp pick type approach to this? Was the timing right on this move, Jack?
I don't know that they had to do this, but every time they end up in this spot, they're always weighing, if we trade this guy, what do we lose on the big league team? And then weighing that against what are we gaining on the big league team moving forward? So they're weighing, how does it impact 25 versus how does it maybe make them better moving forward? And Matt Arnold kind of touched on this when he talked to reporters last night after the deal. I think Brandon Woodruff was a pretty big factor here. Having a guy who was a clubhouse leader who they expect to be more available in 2026. Now, we're going to find out if they were actually correct in expecting that he's going to be more available in 2026 because it has been a long time since he's made a full season's worth of starts, but they feel very confident in his ability to lead on the mound and in the clubhouse. So if you feel that you're not really going to take a sting in 2025 and this makes you better in 2020, or excuse me, if you're not going to take a hit in 2026 and this makes you better long term, this is the reason the Brewers keep winning so many games every year, because they know when to cycle guys in and out. And I don't think they've always done a perfect job of it, but they've done a good enough job that they're continually competitive every single year, and they're winning division titles, and they're in the playoffs. And the reality is, this is still the way that they think they have the best chance of winning the World Series. So I think they're going to stick to this for a little while, and time's going to tell if this was the right move, but I would not be upset about this if I were a Brewers fan. I think that they did a pretty good job here with the return. I think they've got enough pieces in place currently that I don't think they're really going to be hurting without Freddie Peralta, and I do think this makes them quite a bit better long term.
Well, and do you think that they've kind of learned from Josh Hader? Like, do you think that's something that they just don't even want to think about going through? Because when you talk about impact of a clubhouse, they severely miscalculated that with Josh Hader. and everyone knows how big of an impact Freddie Peralta is. And so, do you think there was some pressure on Matt Arnold to either get the deal done before the season and you get the return you can, or we're going to have to let him walk because I don't even want to gamble on will we trade him in the middle of the year again?
I don't know if I would say the pressure was on the Brewers. I think if anything, there'd be more pressure on teams interested in Freddie Peralta to really make something happen, especially if the Brewers are kind of setting a deadline for when they're going to shut down the talks. And again, I don't know that that's what happened, but I do think these are things that you cannot do in season. We saw how badly it went with Josh Hader, like you said. It's a lot easier for everything to kind of die down and everybody to just kind of take a step back and understand what's going on when you're not in the middle of the season, when there's not all kinds of things going on in the clubhouse and on the field and who knows what. I do think they learned from that one. I think they've taken the right approach since then of not doing this at the trade deadline or early in the season or anything like that, because I do think that the context around it makes it a lot harder to swallow then. Even if there probably were some times where they could have gotten better returns at a trade deadline instead of doing this now. And that kind of comes back to that balance that I was talking about. I think that they understand the intangibles now and kind of when you can do this, when you can't. To go back to Adames, I think they made the right call there. That was a guy that I don't think there was just ever going to be any kind of offer where it made sense to do that, and they ended up hanging on to him. So I do think they're a little bit deeper, though, in terms of like clubhouse leadership and leadership from pitchers, too, with what they have, especially with Woodruff coming back and some of these other guys starting to kind of settle into more veteran roles. A couple of years ago, they didn't have anyone really behind Willy Adames at shortstop or in that infield, so I think you needed him as an anchor more. But yeah, you can't do this in season. They haven't since Hader. I think they've got a pretty good understanding of knowing when is the right time and kind of what should get them to pull the trigger.
Jack, with how loaded the Milwaukee Brewers now are in their farm system, especially at that middle infield position, was this the big move that the Brewers were going to make for this offseason? Is there anything else coming trade-wise, even signing-wise? There's guys like Eugenio Suarez still out there on the market that a lot of people are kind of perplexed why he's not signed yet. Is there anything that we should be looking at as news coming for the Brewers moving forward here until spring training?
Well, they do have $8 million freed up, so they have a little bit of spending room. But if I had to guess, I think it's far more likely that they spend that money on maybe a backup catcher for William Contreras, give Jefferson Cairo a little more time in the minors. Maybe you sign another cheaper backup infielder or backup utility man for the big leagues just to give some guys like Williams, for example, a little bit more time in AAA, just kind of rounding out some edges a little bit with some stopgap veteran guys to buy time a little bit. Outside of that, I don't really see any big additions. Like Suarez, for example, I know there's been a lot of talk about him over the last few months. But I think part of the reason he's still out there is because it is a pretty limited profile, and teams just don't want to spend a lot of money on a guy who, granted, it's valuable that he hits dingers, but he hits dingers. He doesn't get on base. He doesn't play defense. He's not fast. He doesn't really do a lot of things. And I think the Brewers want to be a little bit more well-rounded than that if they're going to commit to a player. So I would guess that they're probably just, if anything, going to kind of reallot that Freddie money to maybe a couple of guys who can fill some part-time roles, just kind of round things out a little bit. And then as far as trades go, I still think if you get a good offer for Trevor McGill, you have to consider that just because relievers have pretty short shelf lives. You got to be able to cash them in if you can. But I don't think there needs to be any urgency with that one either. So outside of those, though, I think the big moves are done. This was always the one to watch, and now it's happened.
Jack Stern, one more question for you before we let you go. How does this change expectations in 2026 for this Brewers team? They over-under win total higher than I've ever seen it at 87.5. I'm assuming that was factoring in Freddie Peralta. No doubt that he was a guy that contributed to a lot of wins for this team last year as well. How do the Brewers change their expectations in 2026 without Freddie Peralta?
I don't think it really changes anything for them. I think they're just kind of in the same spot because we talked about the rotation depth. They did bring in an MLB-ready starter for Freddie. You know, they're going to have a lot of innings to fill, and that's no small task, but I think they have enough guys to fill them, especially if they think Woodruff's healthy, if Jacob Mizorowski pitches a full season, and you get some of these younger guys some opportunities. I also don't think they make this move if they think it actually causes them to take a step back with their expectations for this year. That's always the big part of this as well. The Brewers are not interested in taking steps back. It might seem like that to some people. I think more than anything, they're just kind of interested in maintaining a certain level of competitiveness every year. If there's any complaint to make, it's that maybe they don't raise that bar enough some years, but they don't lower the bar. And I don't think Freddie Peralta, losing him, I don't think that lowers the bar or the over-under or any of the expectations.
Jack Stern, brewerfanatic.com. Follow him on Twitter at by Jack Stern. You got anything you're working on? You want to plug before I let you go there, Jack?
Nothing that I'm cooking up right now. I did stay up until 3 a.m. last night writing about the trade. So if anybody wants to get more thoughts on that, that went up this morning at Brewer Fanatic. But that's the big topical one right now. So,
do you think that if Chris Hook would have came to you at WLC, he could have added on 5 miles an hour to your to your velocity on the bump just in one day?
I don't know about 5 miles an hour. I'm sure he could get some guys using their bodies more efficiently. That's probably a big one. He's pretty good at that. But I'm not going to task Chris Hook with doing my other job for me. So that's also part of my responsibility. I think he's got plenty on his plate right now.
Well, he will, with Brandon Sproat joining it as well. Jet Williams also coming over in the trade. Freddie Peralta for Tobias. Freddie Peralta and Tobias Myers as well going over to New York. Jack, thank you so much, my man. Have a good rest of your day, boss.
Yeah, you got it, guys.
There he is, Jack Stern, brewerfanatic.com. Follow him on Twitter at by Jack Stern, covering the Milwaukee Brewers. Seems like he's pretty hype about the trade. That's about as excited as Jack Stern gets, guys. Just want to let you know that. All right.
He was like elated there. Yeah, actually, I think
that was a chipper. That was a chipper, Jack Stern.
If I've ever talked to Jack, that was the happiest he's been.
Well, just to keep you guys updated on Wendy's, I know it doesn't happen very often. Usually they're losing by 20, but when the Bucks win, you win at Wendy's. After every Bucks win, stop by any participating Wisconsin Wendy's for a free small vanilla or chocolate frosty. No purchase necessary. Are you going vanilla or are you going chocolate when you go, Charlie?
I'm a vanilla guy because I can dip fries in it.
Yeah, I'm going chocolate. This is what we're going through right here. This offer only good for 24 hours after a win, so act fast. Get that free small frosty classic at Wendy's. And I'm going chocolate every time. When's their next game? When's this next opportunity here for the Bucks? I probably should know this off the top of my head, but that's how much I've been paying attention to Bucks basketball as of late. Tomorrow, 8:30. That's right. They moved the tip back from 7 to 8:30.
They got like 6 of 7 straight national games too coming up here. Like
Nuggets, Mavs, Sixers, Wizards. Okay, so next Thursday, mark your calendars. Maybe you got a chance.
That's
there.
Chris's audition, right, to come back.
Yeah, exactly. So one of those. Just keep an eye out when the Bucks win. You win over at Wendy's. We're going to open the phone lines back up, continue talking about this Brewers team at the 3:20 segment as we're breaking 5 minutes late, of course. I want to know, with the addition of Jet Williams into this stacked farm right now, who is an odd man out, and we'll continue to take your calls on Freddie Peralta being traded from the Milwaukee Brewers to the New York Mets. It's Wisconsin Sports Daily, served up by Wendy's, live from the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. Sorry, we just had to take a pause to sway in honor of Sparky when this song comes on. Every time. He hates music, loves this song.
He loves music. What do you mean?
I mean, he likes Christmas music. Like, let's be real.
He has a real playlist. He showed me one time.
No way.
Yeah, it was a kind of a crazy playlist. It was like very eclectic, but you know what? He likes music.
All right.
We found it out.
All right. No hate. Then no more hate on Sparky's music taste. It is Wisconsin Sports Daily. Tommy Wirtz here in for Steve Sparky Pfeiffer. Wisconsin Sports Daily served up by Wendy's. Of course, Big Chuck, Charlie Usen still in the building during the time slot. So at least something consistent staying along. We have been talking a lot about Freddie Peralta today and the impact on his trade going over to the New York Mets with Tobias Myers in exchange for pitching prospect Brandon Sproat and shortstop prospect Jet Williams. I said we would open the phone lines up to talk a little more about it. 414-677-1250. James is on the south side. How are you doing today, James?
I'm doing good. Freddie was like 20% of the pitching last year. That made a difference or whatever it was. You got Woodruff now. Woodruff was been injured in that. Is Woodruff going to be the mainstay type of thing, or is all of a sudden when he gets injured, are we going to kind of try to maybe offload him too because of his salary or stuff like that too? Okay, he's good with the team, players and stuff and everything else, but what's going to happen there?
Yeah, James, I get you. Thanks for the call, my man. That is a question that you have to talk about as well, is the Woodruff health situation. But Chuck, I don't know if the Brewers make this move if they're not at least very confident that Woodruff has made a significant recovery since his Raynaud syndrome surgery.
Or very confident that even if he does get hurt, they'll be okay. That's kind of what this tells me, is that they feel that there was no point in keeping a Freddie Peralta around if you weren't going to pay him, because you feel confident in the plethora of pitchers that you have waiting behind him, ready to come up to the major league level. Guys that at the major league level have shown you they can get the job done. You might as well just move on from that. And that all stems from Brandon Woodruff being there and being healthy. But it feels like the Brewers know even without him, they'll be okay.
414-677-1250. Call in if you want to be a part of the conversation on Wisconsin Sports Daily, talking anything you want to about this Freddie Peralta trade heading over to the New York Mets, or if you want to talk about Tobias Myers, because everyone on Twitter want to talk about Tobias Myers yesterday and how it was a great deal until you threw in Tobias Myers with this, and that's just not true. I'm sorry, it's not. Tobias Myers. Charlie, don't do that shrug. I know that's your I'm gonna troll Sparky shrug right there.
What do you mean?
What do you mean? What are you gonna say about Tobias Myers?
No, I was gonna be like nice to you. Okay. I don't know. I felt like throughout a majority of the season last year, Tobias Myers was either unremarkable or wasn't good. Like there was no reason that they needed him. Like I said, they had a plethora of pitchers behind the guys that are already at the major league starting level, and Tobias Myers was consistently getting phased out until they just needed to bring him up every single time again. But if they wanted or needed to give other guys opportunities, they weren't afraid to do so in favor of Tobias Myers.
When he came back as a reliever, he did have some success in about 20 innings. His ERA was under 2, but ultimately the Brewers, looking at their updated 40-man, which got sent today, Carlos Rodriguez, okay, maybe Tobias Myers over Carlos Rodriguez.
Yeah, I guess.
Okay, he's a part of it. Other pitchers as well on this list right now. They have it sorted by every position except for by pitchers here. Here we go. Let me keep going down here. Looking forward, Aaron Ashby. I'm taking Ashby.
Mm-hmm.
Trevor McGill, taking McGill. Mizorowski, still going towards him. DL Hall, I'm taking DL Hall. Chad Patrick, Logan Henderson, Abner Uribe, Quinn Priester, Jared Koenig. All of those guys.
Yep.
Again, I still think Tobias Myers behind. Looking more at the depth chart, depending on how you feel about some of these guys. Craig Yoho is on the 40-man roster.
Give
still.
Yoho a shot over Myers. Yeah.
Give him a shot, sure. Easton McGee, okay, maybe Tobias Myers in that one. This is just the 40-man. This isn't the 26-man. So remember, this list is going to go down to 13, right? It's going to be the 13 best pitchers. 5 of them going to be starters, and you assume that they're going to have a couple of first guy out of the pens, plus back end of the relievers. So we just left off, right? Easton McGee, Robert Gasser, Grant Anderson, Rob Z, all on this list, as well as Coleman Crow and Angel Zerpa and Brandon Sproat. Both guys are on the 40-man as of right now for this Milwaukee Brewers team. They made the trade for Serpa and for Sproat. So he's automatically bumped up ahead of those guys, behind those guys as well. And really, like, Easton McGee's role, what was Easton McGee's role last year? It was like every 9 days when they needed someone to go get shelled, or in a game where they're already getting shelled,
or just be there in case they were getting shelled.
Right.
That's basically what it was.
It's all he was doing. There was no leverage coming
he was
out
Jake
of
Bauer's setup man, basically.
Well, right. Yeah, good save. When Jake Bowers had to close the games out,
exactly.
Easton McGee was the first guy before him or the next guy after him. The point of it is that Jack Stern had made the point of the depth chart. Yeah, I do think that throwing in Tobias Myers was a shock. I don't think it's a bad thing, and I love what they got in the return. I really do. A lot of people know that listening to the leadoff show last year, Hot Stove Weekly every Wednesday from 5 to 7 if you want this year, and eventually on the Potawatomi Sportsbook postgame show immediately after every single Brewers game. Like, I'm a prospect guy, so I love to look ahead. I love to look at these guys coming up, see them before there's something. I think they have, like Stern said, Sproat's good, man. I like what he's going to be. I think he's going to be Quinn Priester 2.0, and everyone was freaking out over that move when it happened at first too. And all of a sudden, Quinn Priester guaranteed to be a starting pitcher at some point. Let me read a couple of texts here beforehand. From the 920, how could losing an all-star 17-game winner with a 2.7 ERA not affect the win total? Brandon Sproat was as good as Freddie Peralta. Why would the Mets trade for Freddie Peralta? From Ron and Rome. Yeah, Ron, I mean, fair point. You are gambling on Sproat. That is how the Brewers have to operate in this current system. Another one from the 262. I'm not convinced we will see Williams full-time in the majors this year. I see him as a future center fielder. Garrett Mitchell is a nice player, but is never healthy. Jesus Made coming at shortstop. This will be the last year of the Joey Ortiz experience. That comes from Ziggy out there in Zilla, Washington. All fair points. But again, the Brewers do this every time, guys. We can't be shocked anymore. And I think you should be grateful it didn't happen in the middle of the year. And I think that what you see on paper is better than what they got for Corbin Burns and for Devin Williams. It just is. And so you got to trust this process between the coaching staff, what they do when they get a pitcher in there, and between what Matt Arnold identifies in the general management pool. Like, this is a good move. It's a good move. I promise. Charlie, I've been hogging a lot of this, but it's your segment next. Charlie's Sounds of the Day, presented by Prize Picks. That's coming up on the other side. It's Wisconsin Sports Daily, served up by Wendy's, live from the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook.
What sound clips will Chicago Charlie pick today for Sparky? Will Sparky become enraged? Will laughter ensue? It's time for Charlie's Sound of the Day. It's Wisconsin Sports Daily, served up by Wendy's on the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network.
Ah, yes. One of my favorite segments on the entire Wisconsin Sports Radio Network. As you are listening right now to Wisconsin Sports Daily, served up by Wendy's. Tommy Wirtz in for Steve Sparky Pfeiffer. However, Charlie's Sounds of the Day remains consistent because Charlie Usen is still here. What do you got for us today, Big Chuck?
All right, so we're going to start off talking about the NIL. We're going to head over to the TNT Sports broadcast where they were playing Big East basketball, and Jamal Mashburn, Seth Davis, and Tim Doyle were on their halftime show debating whether or not NIL opportunities are to thank for the second round of the NBA draft being decimated.
But I just think that the money part of it is secondary at the end of the day. I think all kids, money is great, but they want an opportunity to play at the next level.
Oh, Mash, I'm sorry. I love you. I looked up to you as a kid in New York. You were one of my idols. I couldn't disagree more. I think money is the reason why the talent is so high.
So you think the money in the game is contributing to the scoring of the game?
To Chris, the guys who are playing, I know this pained you to say this, the guys who are playing are more skilled than when you played or when I played.
You're ridiculous.
You just said that. I know that. How to kill you.
From the 5 spot in different positions.
But the shooting is much more improved. The three-point shooting is much more improved. You said all this.
Much more improved from what's the
from your era to this era. The game is.
I don't know. I played at the University of Kentucky where we shot threes. This is not like in 1990 to 1993. We shot threes. Coach Pitino's, this has been here for a long time.
So you're telling me the talent's not better because of the money. I'm saying the money paying guys is keeping the talent around. Please, someone. Seth, I need help here.
I don't think the money contributes to the success of the offense. I just don't. I think that's a byproduct of kids going to a particular school for that particular opportunity. I don't necessarily think money has anything with offense going better.
Seth, do you want to kind of agree with Tim?
That kills him.
I mean, whether it's offense, I think there's no doubt. As I was, the talent level in college basketball to me is as high as it's been since the floodgates of undergraduates going to the NBA. First of all, the whole second round of the NBA draft has been decimated by NIL. NBA coaches will tell you that. Even a couple of guys like JT Toppin would have been a first round pick. He made more money coming back to Texas Tech, about $4.5 million. And then the international guys, not like the top level international guys, but the guys who are making, mid to high 6 figures, they are coming to the U.S. now because they can get paid.
Let me give you something.
Okay, so a couple of things from that clip. Number one, the contribution to the change of the talent in basketball, it stems from coaching, not from money, in my mind. The game has changed into where it is more efficient to take more three-pointers and eliminate mid-range jumpers, and you should be taking as many close to the basket, high efficient shots if you are going to take a 2-pointer. So the scoring goes up naturally because there are more 3-pointers taken in any given basketball game. The other part of it with the second round of the NBA draft, I mean, that was a crapshoot already before, right? I mean, you can think of the Malcolm Brogdon stories. There's a Nikola Jokic pops up out of nowhere, right? But overall, like Michael Redd, that's another one that was a big second rounder, obviously, that Milwaukee can relate back to. The second round, like the NIL, I don't think has anything to deal with the second round. The NIL in making more money, yeah, if they're averaging more points per game, I mean, that's the name of the game, right? Score more points than the other team. I don't think that's because they're necessarily looking at the money that's been taken. Go watch Mitch Nellis's daughter, Whitefish Bay. Like, they're shooting more threes. They 100%. That's how the game has changed. That's how the coaching philosophy has changed in this, Charles. I don't know if I see the correlation with money versus just game planning in general.
Right. And again, like they mentioned there at the end too, you're getting a lot more international players coming in. You're getting different players that have played in multiple systems that understand these systems a little bit better. Yes, I think the second round of the draft is not been great, but also the second half of the first round of the draft really hasn't been great either, if we're going to be completely honest. It's been the top 15 picks, and that's all anybody has really cared about for a while now.
Yeah.
You can't just automatically blame NIL on that. And then also, when you're talking about just the talent in college basketball, to your point, look at teams like Purdue. That's all they do. They have one big guy in the middle of the paint that just shoots at the basket all the time, and then 3 to 4 guys that are deadly three-point shooters, and then they play good defense. It's that easy. It's that simple. It's not about how much money is flowing into a team, if we're being honest. When there's only 5 guys on the court, and realistically only 3 of those guys are making a huge impact in a game, I think that's just by design of the coach and the players.
Yeah, I think it's the way the game has evolved. If you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. Next one.
Next up, we're going to hear from Texans quarterback C.J. Stroud discussing why his play was so poor in the playoffs and why having a great defense kind of hinders him a little bit.
I think just the turnovers, like I haven't really been prone to turnovers in my career, especially like
2 games,
the timely turnovers, where, I've, like I told y'all before, I'm really, I've been on some great teams, my whole career, where a lot of them were, offensive driven, and like, playing for Coach Day, where, we're taking shots and then, like being on this team, where, we're more full everywhere, where it's offense, defense, and special teams, but defense is, is making a bunch of plays. So, this year was a step for me where like I didn't have to be Superman all the time, and I'm still growing in that. You know what I'm saying? So, I appreciate my teammates for taking a lot of pressure, off of my plate, but also, they do know that I can make those plays. So, I'm appreciative of them having that perspective, and I feel like I've grown, in that way of like, taking what's there, in ways where, I would have taken a shot there or just, take care of the ball some other ways. But, I just seen some growth, my footwork, in the pocket, trusting my guys, staying in the pocket, not just running around, but, staying strong and firm. So I think I made a step in that area as well. But, always things to improve, and I'll do that.
Yeah, I mean, for CJ Stroud, it was a rough year last year for you and this year. Andy Herman, when he was on the Mason Crosby show a couple of weeks ago, had said he was the most important player in the playoffs. Like if he could play efficiently, like the Texans were destined for wherever it was going to go because of that defense. And we're claiming like his defense was so good that it hurt his play.
Yeah, he was so thrown off by how good the rest of the team was around him that it just threw him off. Yeah,
I'm looking right now, and his last year in college was 2022, and Ohio State had the 14th ranked defense by yards in the NCAA. Like here's the teams at the top, right? Air Force was number 1. Like obviously, Air Force was not the best defense in all of college football, but other teams like Iowa, Illinois, Iowa State, JMU is there. Like he had a top 10 defense in the country his last year at Ohio State. And ultimately that led him to being the number 2 overall pick. So if you want to be the number 2 overall pick and you're going to be like, whoa, next year, if the defense could suck a little more so I could play a little better, that would be great. No, terrible excuse. Terrible excuse. Do we have time for one more?
We got time for one more. Right. Next up, we'll have our friend here at the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network, Kurt Hogue, who was on Foul Territory earlier today, discussing how Brewers fans deal with losing these star players all the time and how much more can they take of it.
Winning fixes a lot of problems. I think the last few offseason, people weren't taking it. They were upset that, they trade Corbin. They trade Devin, and obviously the Hader trade was was super fireworks when they made that deal. So, but I think we're at the point now where, look, if the Brewers go out and they win 93 games again, they'll be in fine shape with the fan base here. So, how much can they take? It all depends on how much they keep on winning. Look, I think you have to, even the biggest skeptic, even the most ardent supporter of the Brewers spending more money, that they need to make a big trade or go get a big free agent. I think you would have to argue that what they're doing, minus the World Series, the process has been pretty clean.
So Kurt Hogue, he just doesn't care about local radio anymore. He only does big league stuff
now. He's
now.
too cool for us, I guess.
He doesn't answer Sparky anymore. Doesn't answer me anymore. It's all right, Kurt. I get you. But Yeah, Jack touched on it too. Like this is how the Brewers sustain success. And I know you want to get over the hump. I do too. I really do. I want to see this team win a World Series in my life. I want to feel that. But they have to be calculated, and they have to be aware that in order to continue to take these micro steps forward, they might have to take like a move that on paper doesn't look like they're going in a big leap. There is no quantum leap every single year. We'll see what happens. Coming up, green and gold updates. Wisconsin Sports Daily served up by Wendy's. Do you care if the new defensive coordinator rather has previous play calling experience? We'll discuss that in the green and gold update. Wisconsin Sports Daily served up by Wendy's, live from the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook.
Some shows talk about one team. Other shows barely talk sports. This show will talk Packers, Brewers, and Bucks every day. Every day. It's Wisconsin Sports Daily with Steve Sparky Pfeiffer, served up by Wendy's on the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network. Download the Wendy's app today.
Hour number 3, last hour I got left here, coming up after this show, which is Wisconsin Sports Daily, served up by Wendy's. Tommy Wirtz in for Steve Sparky Pfeiffer. Don't worry, Sparky will be back tomorrow. Charlie Usen still here. Some things never change. Death, taxes. Charlie Usen behind the board from 2 to 5.
Damn straight.
Wisconsin Sports Wrap-Up coming up at 5 o'clock today. A lot of good interviews that were on the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network. Lane Grindle on the Brewers Radio Network joined Inside Wisconsin Sports. That'll be up there. Eli Berkovitz, who was on our program today, we'll talk some Packers. We talked Packers with him, potential defensive coordinator. Al Harris came up. Senior Bowl came up. He's going down there next week. That's going to be on the program. And Trey Crosby from the Cream City Crossover joining Brandon Snide and company on 9 to noon. John Kuhn, Rami Makloff. Brandon Snide just helped me, so you just got all the credit for that show as opposed to he's not just producing for it. But shout out to Brandon. It's 4 o'clock. Shut up, Tommy. We got to do this.
It's time for your green and gold update on Wisconsin Sports Daily, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook on the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network with Steve Sparky Pfeiffer.
Said the question going out of the bottom of the hour. Address it again here at the top of the hour. Packers defensive coordinator search. Do you care if the new defensive coordinator has previous NFL defensive play calling experience in the NFL? Noted Christian Parker was a candidate, not anymore. Got the Dallas defensive coordinator job. They have interviewed Jonathan Gannon, who has great defensive coordinator play calling background in Philadelphia, and then not so great as the head coach in Arizona. And the other candidate that we know for sure has interviewed is Al Harris, who does not have the previous play calling experience in the NFL. I think a lot of people would be happy with Al Harris being the return he would have after playing 7 years in Green Bay. He's got a great track record with the defensive backs right now in the NFL. I'll get to in this segment as well. But dial it up if you want to get in on the conversation. 414-677-1250. That is the Nicolay Law talk and text line. If you want to chime in on the program, talking about the defensive coordinators for Green Bay. Charlie Usen, do you care that a coordinator has previous defensive play calling experience specifically for the Green Bay Packers? I don't know. Like, this is a team that wants to be in the upper echelon of teams. They want to be competing for Super Bowls year in and year out. This is not a Vegas Raiders situation where go ahead, give anyone a shot. Do you care if there is previous defensive play calling experience for the defensive coordinator for the Packers?
Sparky and I had touched on this a little bit yesterday, and I had said that, yes, I do, with the caveat that I don't want it to break the bank for the Green Bay Packers in order to do that. And Sparky, that stemmed from him calling for Brian Flores to be brought into this team
and
put into that position that Packers should spend all this money to bring Brian Flores in. And that in my mind, they spent all this money to show that they're buying into Jordan Love and that they're buying into Micah Parsons, and they made that big trade, and they spent all this money on Matt LaFleur supposedly, and all of these things that told me that they are buying in, that they don't need to prove that anymore. As Sparky thinks that they still need to do that at the defensive coordinator position. I don't think so. I think you can go out and get a Raheem Morris if he doesn't get a head coach position for a lot cheaper than a Brian Flores.
Yeah, and again, bringing up that point, Brian Flores, I never saw him leaving Minnesota. I think his fit there is great. I think Kevin O'Connell loves him out there as well with what he does. But I wanted to know if people are weighing that against Al Harris, I guess, more than showing in favor of Jonathan Gannon. I believe that it is only something that can hurt you when you don't have the play calling experience. And so is that a notch in Jonathan Gannon's cap regardless? I mean, the defense was unreal in Philadelphia when they won the Super Bowl. He was a very, very vital part, or went to the Super Bowl, right? They didn't win it that year, but they went to the Super Bowl. And now do you decide to go with track record or with proven commodity Al Harris as well? Because I have some numbers here. Al Harris, in his 4 years in Dallas, they had the most interceptions in the NFL over that time, 72 in those 4 years. Then last year with the Chicago Bears, or this past year, they led the NFL in interceptions during that time as well. So for the last 5 years, Al Harris is the coach with the most interceptions for the entire NFL coaching tree. On top of that, he has had All-Pro Trayvon Diggs, who led the NFL in interceptions when he was there. He has had All-Pro Deron Bland, who has led the NFL in interceptions while he was the coach. And he has had All-Pro Kevin Byard, who has led the NFL in interceptions in that time too. I would give him that credit. He has to get some of that credit because no other year other than Byard, I believe Byard has a previous All-Pro year, but Trayvon Diggs has not been an All-Pro since then. Deron Bland has not been an All-Pro since then, and maybe that's just a victim of what's going on in Dallas since he's been gone.
Both of those guys haven't looked good even. It's not like that they're not All-Pros. They both have looked bad since he's left there, considerably different than when he was there coaching them how to be those ball hogs.
CB, you are in downtown Milwaukee. You're on Wisconsin Sports Daily, Tommy and Charlie today. Do you care about previous coaching experience, specifically defensive play calling when it comes to the Packers hiring a defensive coordinator? What's up, CB?
What's going on? And yes, I do, man. I need somebody that got some veteran type leadership, far as on the coaching point, having a type of style defense. For the past three coordinators we had was bend but don't break. That's cool. But I want somebody to be very aggressive, maybe get some of these guys to do things that they never done before, and that's the type of style of play I want. I'm tired of the bend but don't break defense, and you kind of good between the end zone, the 20 and the end zone, but everything else is they chewing you up. I'm tired of seeing that. I want an attacking style, kind of like the Seahawks. We can grab somebody off one of their staff.
Yeah, understood for sure. CB, so you would say you would rather have a Gannon over a Harris because of the previous track record, or you would rather have a Harris over a Gannon because it might be a different style of defense you could see in Green Bay?
Both of them will be good, but I still would have to go with Gannon, and I'm not really too much sold on him. That's why I hope he keep interviewing different defensive coordinators.
What about a guy like Jim Leonard who's done it at the college level?
Bring him in too as well.
Okay.
Jim Schwartz. What I don't want is Eberflus, and you do got an interview with Matt coming up next week.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's see what happens. CB, thanks for the call, my man. I don't believe this Eberflus crap, man. Like, if Matt, first of all, you think Packers Twitter is crazy now. If Matt Eberflus gets hired as defensive coordinator for the Green Bay Packers, I won't even be able to defend him. I won't even be able to defend anyone. Like, you are opening up the Pandora's box of Twitter if you hire Matt Eberflus.
Yeah, that's kind of insane. As a Bears fan myself, I know what Matt Eberflus brings to the table, and it's a very low ceiling. I don't think his floor is that low. I think you know what you're going to get out of a Matt Eberflus, but what you saw in Chicago with the defenses that he had that were super inconsistent as a head coach, and then this past year in Dallas where he was just completely flat out awful as a defensive coordinator, why would you give him the opportunity to work with a guy like Micah Parsons who ran away from him, if we're being completely honest? He didn't want to be on that team at the end of the year, and if he trusted in that defensive coordinator, maybe he would have had a little bit of a different attitude, but I think he was completely sold out on the Cowboys, and part of it was the coaching staff that was in place as well. And he comes to Green Bay in order to get into a different system, get into a different environment, and to bring that environment from Dallas back to him when you already brought back Trevon Diggs, which is, it's pretty likely that he still comes back to this team too moving forward here. I don't know if you just want to become the Green Bay Cowboys at any point here, and adding Matt Eberflus kind of steps towards that.
We're talking Packers defensive coordinator here. Green and Gold update. Wisconsin Sports Daily, served up by Wendy's. Tommy Wirtz in for Steve Sparky Pfeiffer. However, Charlie Usen's still here around. There was a question earlier. I got it right here from Brett on the YouTube stream. Charlie, he wanted to ask your take as a Bears fan. Do you actually think that Al Harris is ready to be a defensive coordinator in the NFL? Now, Charles, I have given you plenty of praise that even though you are a Bears fan, I do think you like to look at things more impartially and not from a fan side of view. So when you hear Al Harris is getting defensive coordinator interviews, your thoughts on, yeah, he's ready for it, or I don't know if I necessarily believe that off of what I saw in Chicago.
I think he's ready for it. From what I saw in Chicago in his role with the defensive backs, and then you go back to the Cowboys in two different spots now, he's been able to come in and have immediate success with his position group. The other thing I really like about him, and you get those press conferences from the position coaches about once a week, he was always one of the more entertaining ones, and he loved diving into talking about his players and not only the skill that they had, but the personalities that they had and how that changed the way that he worked with them. And I think you saw that play out on the field this season versus last season with the Chicago Bears. You saw a lot of guys in that group kind of have their egos checked a little bit. This year, you saw them work more as a unit, and I think that is directly because of a guy like Al Harris. I think through 2 stops here as an assistant coach, he's proved he's gotten good enough at what he's done to be able to, I think, transition that to the entire defense. So, yes, I do think he's ready to be a defensive coordinator. Yeah, he's a little more unproven than some of these other guys that we've talked about today, but he's proven that guys will buy into him at the very least.
The other candidate, well, we talked about Christian Parker. He is no longer an option. New coordinator, defensive coordinator for the Dallas Cowboys. Durante Jones, who is the passing game coordinator on the defensive passing game coordinator, that is, and the defensive backs coach for the Minnesota Vikings. And now Sparky wanted Brian Flores to be in the conversation, and he's not. I don't believe that. He's going to be the defensive coordinator of the Vikings. If he doesn't get a head coaching job now, that's what happened with his latest extension. Does a guy that comes from that coaching tree intrigue you at all? You can dial it up 414-677-1250, the Nicolay Law talk and text line. Charlie, they are obviously searching for someone to help that cornerback room. I think it's their biggest weakness on the team heading into 2026. Does a guy from the Brian Flores coaching tree intrigue you at all over in Minnesota?
I think so, mostly because I think he has worked really well with his blitz packages throughout his time as a defensive coordinator and knowing when to use those blitz packages the most. I think having a guy like Micah Parsons definitely allows a defensive coordinator to be more selective about when they're using those blitz packages. And I think I've heard a lot of people talk about how aggressive they want this next defensive coordinator to be coming in, and that they do want to see more creative things happening with the pass rush in order to give those defensive backs a break, knowing full well that that could result in a lot of big plays busting over the top of your defensive backs, your cornerback room, especially if you don't add too much talent-wise to that unit. I also think at the same time, though, and I do agree that I want a more aggressive approach. I don't want it to just be all out aggressive. I want a coach that understands their system and knows when and where to be aggressive while also knowing when to stay back a little bit. I think Brian Flores, that's something he'd instill in people that are coming from his tree. I think I would be pretty intrigued to bring a guy in like that.
Zach Cruz over at Packers Wire wrote up about Durante Jones a little bit for the defensive coordinator position, the interview that is happened with the Green Bay Packers, and a couple of things to note from his article at PackersWire.com. This is now he was the defensive backs coach and the passing game coordinator for the last 3 years now, from 2023 through 2025. With the Minnesota Vikings. Before that, he was also just the defensive backs coach for the Vikings in 2022. In 2021, he was the defensive coordinator at LSU. So he has the experience at the collegiate level. He was the cornerbacks coach in 2018 and 2019. He's got some sort of demand right now because he did interview for the Cowboys job. He had interviewed already for the New York Jets job, and the Giants have requested to interview him as well. Here's the part of it that I also think is interesting and weird now too, because all of these guys seem to have some sort of Packer, Green Bay, Wisconsin type tie. Durante Jones was the defensive backs coach at the University of Wisconsin in 2015 before they turned that over the following year to Jim Leonhard as well. So he has a little bit of a connection here today as well. I don't know if I necessarily think, though, last year, like, the cornerback room for Minnesota was pretty terrible. It was not good. And they've had success in the past with guys like Xavier Rhodes or Terrence Newman when you go way back. Like, it's just like in the recent memory, I don't really see that a whole lot. They had Gilmore for a year, which was fine, but he's already been an established player in the NFL at that point.
Well, and he had a better year the next year with Indianapolis when he went there. Yeah.
I don't know if I'm all in on the Durante Jones quite yet, but I don't hate the move to try to go off of the Brian Flores coaching tree if, hey, maybe he is going to bring over some blitz packages, or maybe he is going to bring up a different approach now to a defense that isn't a bend, don't break, in the term that CB wanted to use when talking about this defensive coordinator position. If I'm leaning today, I'm going to back the Al Harris hire. And I want to talk about it from the perspective that Eli Berkovitz had. And I was going to play this at the beginning, but I think I'm going to get to it now because I wanted to play this. I asked Eli Berkovitz this question when we had him on at 2:20 today, if he did think it was a big deal for previous experience to be a part of the next defensive coaching search. Here is Eli Berkovitz from earlier today on Wisconsin Sports Daily talking about previous experience in coaching and calling a defense in the NFL. We're going to do this as a topic later on in the show, but I'm going to ask you the question. Maybe we'll play it back for people. We'll open it up for the phone lines. I want to know if previous defensive play calling experience matters to you or not, because Matt LaFleur obviously was in full control of the offense over the last, however long he's been here now. Maybe since Aaron's been gone is probably a better way to say it than just the last 2 or 3 years. And Jeff Hafley had full control over the defense during that time. If you go with a guy like Jonathan Gannon, he has that previous experience in the NFL on whatever level you like, whether it's the Eagles as the coordinator or at Arizona as the head coach. Well, a guy like Al Harris, he doesn't have that experience. He hasn't had that opportunity, but maybe you're looking for a guy with a new perspective, a little bit younger, and maybe it benefits Matt LaFleur because if it's a guy who hasn't had that experience before, you can maybe get a little more input if you want to say something as well.
Yeah, I like the idea of experience, right? Where it's like you don't want a guy necessarily, you bring him in and it's like, ooh, wow, this guy maybe is not prepared to be calling plays right now. But at the same time, I also think there's something to finding a guy at the right time in his career before he becomes a play caller and you getting kind of his first crack at it. And if it goes well, like there's almost something about like the unknown, which could it go wrong? Sure. But if it goes right, it could, like, let's be real. I think when they hired Jeff Hafley, even though at Boston College, I'm sure he was calling defensive plays, but I don't think anyone saw that hire coming. I know I personally did, and everyone was this name, that. All of a sudden, it's like Jeff. Like a lot of people are like, who even is Jeff Hafley? And obviously, it worked out very well. So I think whether it's Al Harris, Jim Leonhard, like these guys, they could come in and maybe it will be their first time calling plays. But I don't necessarily mind that. But then again, like Jonathan Gannon, it did not go great, his tenure in Arizona. I think a lot of that had to do with the roster. Obviously, Kyler Murray was in and out of the lineup with injury, but he's a good defensive coordinator. When he was with the Eagles, there was a reason why they were in the Super Bowl. They were constantly attacking the quarterback, turning the ball over. The Packers struggled to move the ball against the Cardinals this year. I mean, they won that game, but it was very, very close, as I'm sure most of you remember. So Gannon, he probably wouldn't be my first choice of who's left right now, but he certainly is in my last, and I wouldn't be, upset if that's where he ended up going.
There is Eli Berkovitz from earlier today on Wisconsin Sports Daily. If you want, catch that whole interview coming up on Wisconsin Sports Wrap Up from 5 to 6 here as well. But looking over at the text line here, 414 says, I think they absolutely have to have someone with previous play calling experience on the defense only because Matt LaFleur has zero influence. All of these guys do have previous play calling in other than Al Harris at some level of football, whether it is the NFL or at the collegiate level. I don't know, man. Like, they did it with Pettin, they did it with Barry, they did it with Hafley. I'm really not that sad Jeff Hafley left. I just don't think I'm there right now. The team was much better in 24 with him than they were in 25. And the number I always just continue to go back to is you can't afford to not win a game without Micah Parsons. I'm sorry. You went 0-5 without Micah Parsons. That's bye. Okay. Like, that shows way more of the impact of Micah Parsons than it was on Jeff Hafley's play calling ability, Charlie.
I think so too. I think when you watch teams like the Houston Texans, and I know they bounced out of the playoff a little bit early too as well, but at the same time, that was a team that was completely riding on that defense and an offense that was pretty just underwhelming, if we're being completely honest, throughout a majority of the season. And they were able to make it to the second round of the playoffs. This Green Bay Packers team had an offense that was much better than underwhelming, maybe not consistently one of the best in the league, but had the potential to be. And then their defense just had to be kind of at that same spot. They didn't have to be at the level of the Houston Texans. And you saw in those last 5 weeks without Micah Parsons, they were completely incapable of doing that. And I think you have to put some blame on Jeff Hafley because of that.
Wisconsin Sports Daily, served up by Wendy's. Yeah, I got another Wendy's read for you. It's in a world full of tenders, Wendy's decided to make something more juicy, more crispy, more dippable. The new chicken tenders are here, and some people are calling them tendies. Yes, it's fun to say, even more fun to eat. And Wendy's new chicken tendies come with an insane new sauce lineup. Wendy's signature, new sweet chili, new scorching hot, or choose one of the classics: honey barbecue, creamy ranch, honey mustard, whatever you choose. They're perfect. They're the perfect vessel to dip all of your tendies in. Wendy's new chicken tenders, so juicy, crispy, and dippable. You'll remember them forever. Got to have tendies. It's got to be Wendy's. The intro of this show talks about it. Sparky brought this up yesterday already.
Yeah.
Talk Brewers, Packers, Bucks every day. And we have tried so hard to not talk about the Bucks today. And quite frankly, yesterday was the most predictable. I had to dump Hover over right there. But like, Mitch Nellis was like, I kind of like the Bucks to cover 9. I was like, they're going to lose by 20.
No shot.
They're going to lose by 20. And they lost by 20. Like, that's what happens when the Bucks play basketball now. But Giannis, man, is he just doing an Aaron Rodgers little thing at the end of his career right now in Milwaukee? I don't know. Either he's gone or someone's gone on this team based on what he's talking about. We'll talk about it next. It's Wisconsin Sports Daily, served up by Wendy's, live from the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. It is Wisconsin Sports Daily. Tommy Wirtz in for Steve Sparky Pfeiffer. Wisconsin Sports Daily served up by Wendy's. Charlie Usen still here along for the ride. Some news. Jesse Minter is the next head coach of the Baltimore Ravens. That happening in the middle of the break. 5-year deal. Great that we... Like, how does every coach know all the details other than the Green Bay Packers when it happens?
Because the Packers have to pair it up with 18 other people that all have to get contracts at the same time. So we're going to have to wait like 10 more months until they get a defensive coordinator because they got to figure out that contract too.
Yeah, right. Oh, Brett brings it up in the YouTube dugout chat as well. Then another defensive coach opening now here as the Chargers going to now have a defensive coordinator position open up as well. So the competition only becoming stronger to get another defensive coordinator for the Green Bay Packers. We're gonna talk about Giannis. Here's some Giannis from yesterday because I'm getting sick of it. Here he is post game yesterday.
Teams are holding off on their trade moves to see what happens with you, Giannis. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, can't control that. I can't control what other teams do, man. I just try to focus on my job, which is go out there, compete, and try to win games.
Last week, it felt like a turning point when the fans in Milwaukee booed you and you booed them back. How did that moment feel in your heart?
I felt great. I don't know, for some reason, I enjoy being the villain this year.
Even with your own fans?
It doesn't really matter with everybody. It doesn't matter. It just makes my motor go more. It makes me hungry when I play. It just makes me compete more. It doesn't matter. I just love playing basketball, and anything that can kind of spark my fire in me, I love it.
How confident are you'll finish the season with the Bucks?
I don't know. I take it day by day.
That's crazy. I mean, this guy just every week he's just saying something crazier and crazier now. This is not Giannis just said I love being the villain this year, and it makes no sense as to why the switch up, unless he was pissed off from being out of the loop on something else, maybe. And right now, it makes me play better. He's playing 29 minutes a game, right? And he's averaging 2 less points than he has. His per 36 is all great now and looks awesome, and he's efficient in that way. But ultimately, he's on the court less as well this season. Charlie, I don't know where you have been on Giannis Antetokounmpo, his status with the Milwaukee Bucks. Is this all right, chalk it up, he's gone?
I don't know if it's that. I think the way Giannis has talked throughout the past 3 to 4 years, the way this season has gone down, I think he again just really likes messing with the media for some reason. He doesn't like listening to those guys. He likes just
also
joking.
like Aaron Rodgers, kind of a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. Kind of towards the end here, he just wants. It feels like he wants to make this exciting for some reason, and this is the way he's doing it. And then he gets frustrated about his team around him. He says all these different things, but then his head coach goes out there and says the exact opposite of what he's saying, all the time. They're spreading different messages, and it feels like Giannis is just ignoring that and getting mad about it to everybody else, but to the people that need to hear it.
Some shots being fired on teammates, like you said, Charles, yesterday.
Played hard. I played hard. We not do the right thing. We not play to win. Not play together. Our chemistry's not there. Guys are being selfish. Guys are trying to look for their own shots instead of looking for the right shot for the team. Guys try to do it on their own.
What this says to me is either he's gone or someone's gone. I don't know if that someone is Doc, if it's Kuz, if it's Ryan Rollins. Someone's gone. It's not going to be the same team in a month at this point. Because the trade deadline's is it before the All-Star break, right?
I believe so, yep.
Yeah. I don't see any scenario in which this is the same Milwaukee Bucks team 1 month from today that it is right now. I don't see that, Charles.
And I don't even really know, like, just in that game last night alone, watching it, looking back at the box score now too, I don't even really know who he's referencing in this, because it doesn't feel like anybody took more shots than they needed to. Yeah, Bobby Portis led the team in shots with 14, but that's Bobby Portis. You've known that your entire career that you've played with him. That's what he's going to do off the bench. Everybody else in the starting lineup, it's not like Ryan Rounds took 30 shots in this game and missed 20 of them. He took the same amount of shots as you. Yeah, maybe Kyle Kuzma misses 5 threes and he needs to lay off that a little bit, but that's what you guys are asking him to do. And throughout the season, he hasn't really been that good at that. He's been better when you've allowed him to drive the paint a little bit. He can't do that when he's playing with you, Giannis, on the court. You have to be the one that's in the paint. I think there's a lot of things here that Giannis is just complaining about when he is the manufacturer of a lot of these problems too on the court. When he's going out there and not taking shots, when he's only taking 11 shots, when he's the guy that has the ball in his hands for a majority of games like this, and you're passing off shots, and the rest of the team is just moving the ball around because that's what you're doing, that's what leads to this. Not just guys being selfish. Everybody took almost the same amount of shots in this game. Who are you talking about?
From the 262, they should have traded him 2 or 3 years ago. Like I said, now it's desperation as usual. I don't think the Bucks are desperate to move on from Giannis, or maybe you can argue they're desperate to build around Giannis.
I wouldn't even say that. It just feels like they're confused more at what to do. Again, we talked about this on Wisconsin Sports Daily with Sparky. It feels like a lot of other teams that are in similar positions to where the Bucks are with Giannis, where they're uncertain about whether or not Giannis is going to be a part of this future of this team. They usually have pretty clear directions. They've just won a championship like the Raptors did with Kawhi Leonard and knew he wasn't coming back. So it was a lot easier to move on and make the decisions that they did in order to kind of rebuild that team or retool that team a little bit. Giannis is constantly going back and forth saying he wants to be a part of this team. Oh, I don't know if I'm going to be a part of this team. It's all up to the Bucks. It's all up to my agents. Nothing is up to me at the end of the day. Come on, dude. Like, you have to help give the Bucks a clear direction, and then I think they can be desperate. But right now, they're not even able to be desperate because they don't know what the hell is happening.
It's like when me and Charlie in football season, every Friday we get excited because we don't have to do daily promos, because we recorded all the promos that we had to do for the Saturday and Mondays when it's either Packers win or Packers lose. Like, we record a bunch of these, and then we know already by Friday and by Monday which ones we're going to play. And instead, when football season ends, we have to now start doing promos for Monday and the weekend on Fridays. That's when we have to do them. We don't get that luxury, that break anymore. And instead, that first Friday when it's done, if I don't do a promo, then it's like, oh, that was Sparky. You're supposed to tell me, like, that was all on him because I didn't do the promo. Like, Sparky should have been telling me and directing me during this. I don't know. It's out of my control. No, dude. Like, do the promo. Do the work. Say what you want. Say you want to leave. Say you want change. Because a lot of people would hate this take. But really, what you guys want the general management of the Brewers and the Packers to do, the Bucks are doing. They're just doing all the wrong moves the entire time. And it's blowing back up in their face. The aggressive nature you want. Go out and get this guy. Bring him in. The Bucks are doing that. And they keep bringing the wrong people. And it's frustrating because you have to applaud some of the effort from John Horst. Like, dating it back to creativity with Dame's contract and what's going on to bring in Miles Turner. He replaces Brook Lopez. It's just like getting a younger Brook in there, a little more athletic. He'll get rebounds. Oh, dude, look at how excited Bucks Twitter is for Amir freaking Coffee.
That was insane.
No, like, this is the other side of it. When you make the wrong moves as that aggressive GM, now you have a terrible team, a terrible coach, a superstar that is so unhappy right now, who verbatim has said, I want to be the bad guy this year. It can blow up back in your face. And I have no idea what's going to happen with Giannis. I have inklings that it's probably going to be this team's going to get blown up before Giannis gets shipped out. But boy, like Giannis, this is the reason people liked what you were doing here is because you weren't the villain. Like we all were like, he's different. You know, this is going back to exes and saying like, oh no, like I know the last person cheated and they had a dating profile still when we were still talking. Like this one's different. No, they're cheating. It's the same process right now. And God, I'm like 20 minutes away from leaving work. I don't have to be here anymore. And we had to talk Bucks at some point, and I was like, just throw it at the end. No, now I'm pissed for the rest of the night. For the rest of the night. Bucks lost by 20 yesterday. I'm not talking about that garbage game. Not talking about the garbage they're putting out on the floor. Not talking about the garbage attitude that they have every time they go out and play. I'm not talking about the garbage that Giannis talks about after every single game for more than 10 minutes. I just can't do it because I'm positive for the most part. I wake up every morning. I choose joy. Giannis is choosing violence. And I'm over that. So let's get into things. Sparky missed on the other side. It is Wisconsin Sports Daily, served up by Wendy's. And guys, again, want to tell you a little bit more about the Potawatomi Sportsbook because I love the Potawatomi Sportsbook already. And now with the addition of Tim Allen and the Potawatomi Sportsbook postgame show, Hot Stove Weekly every Wednesday from 5 to 7, it sure sounds like I'm going to love Potawatomi Sportsbook even more. It's the best sportsbook you can find anywhere close to here. It's one of the best in the entire country. They have 2,000 square foot screen in there, over 30 different screens that combine into one mega screen as well. Great food options. You can get the John Kuhn platter and anything else in the great food dining hall. They have breakfast, lunch, and dinner, all different types of great options. And the staff, man, the hospitality over at the Potawatomi Sportsbook, Luis, Austin, you name it, Justin Arnett, they're all just been, no one has been mean ever. And they are always great. They're always helpful. You can go to their website. You can do your wagers online. You can scan a QR code and bring it into their kiosk. Then you don't even have to wait in line to place your bet because they have an express line there as well. And if you don't see odds, like I remember last year being mad that I didn't see any odds for Jake Bowers to hit a homer in a game that he did homer, by the way. Yes. And I went up to Austin. I was like, yo, can I get some odds? Yeah, we'll find some for you. So they're doing their best to get you your bets you want to place. Just ask over at the kiosk, give them enough time, and maybe they hook you up. The Potawatomi Sportsbook, they're great friends over here at the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network. They should be your great friends too. Coming up, things Sparky missed, Tommy edition on Wisconsin Sports Daily, served up by Wendy's from the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook.
It's been 1 week since you looked at me. Threw your arms in the air and said you're crazy. 5 days since you tackled me.
Welcome back. Couple minutes left here. Talking things that we miss eventually. Tommy Wirtz in for Steve Sparky Pfeiffer here on Wisconsin Sports Daily, served up by Wendy's. Charlie Usen here as well. Always a blast when I get to work with Charlie Usen. Thanks, Big Chuck, for the day.
Of course.
Don't mess it up in this last 6 minutes.
What story did Sparky miss talking about today on Wisconsin Sports Daily? Don't you worry. Sparky's got you covered now. Don't miss Milwaukee Admirals hockey this season. Don't just buy tickets. Invest in memories at MilwaukeeAdmirals.com.
Well, in case you missed it from earlier in the show, we brought it up when the news had hit around 4:30 today. Jesse Minter, the next head coach of the Baltimore Ravens. That means there's another defensive coordinator job open with the Los Angeles Chargers. How do you think the hire is so far, though, for the boys out in Baltimore there, getting Jesse Minter, Chuck?
I think that was a good pickup. I think he's a guy that obviously not in the John Harbaugh tree, but in the Jim Harbaugh tree, kind of has a lot of the same mentality as those two brothers. I think both of them go in with this kind of hard-nosed approach, but also kind of with a dad approach at the same time, too. Very Pat Murphy in my mind when comparing it to like Wisconsin sports. I think Jesse Minter can help bring that back to Baltimore so that they're not changing philosophies all that much, hopefully. At the same time, he's a younger guy that's going to have a little bit more freedom to kind of listen to other coaches, other people in the front office, maybe the players on his team, and maybe allow them to kind of get creative that way as well. I think this is a really good hire for Baltimore.
He was with the team as well from 2017 to 2020 in Baltimore, so familiar with the culture.
Is in the John Harbaugh tree too.
Yeah, both, right? Yeah, he's just been passed around by the Harbaughs as well. Talking about the earlier trade as well, Mackenzie Gore, 5 prospects coming over in exchange for him, more team control, like Jack Stern brought up. As we know, Freddie Peralta, this was it. It was your last year. He wasn't going to be a part of the team. Tobias Myers goes over. Charlie, how hurt are you about the Tobias Myers part of it?
I'm not really too flustered by the whole Tobias Myers part of it. I was kind of surprised that they had to throw him in there in order to get this deal done. I also felt like that at the same time, the reports were saying that they weren't at that close when it was just Freddie Peralta for these two guys. So I was a little surprised that all it took was Tobias Myers to get this over the edge there. It sounded like it might have needed to be a prospect that was of higher name value than maybe a Myers in my mind.
What else you got? Things we missed here?
Next up here, I did want to head over to the NBA a little bit. This is something that Sparky and I couldn't get to yesterday and things Sparky missed, but I still wanted to talk about. Jeannie Buss apparently has begun to turn on LeBron James. She's come out and said, kind of denied part of the allegations that were against her and what she's felt about LeBron, especially since she's kind of taken over and fired her two brothers, had a lot of familial drama happen in that Lakers front office, but apparently she grumbled about LeBron James's outsized ego, felt Clutch Sports exerted too much control. It's Rich Paul and his whole podcast that's going on right now with Max Kellerman over there. Didn't like how LeBron was considered a savior of the Lakers, lack of accountability over the Westbrook trade for LeBron James, privately mused about not giving him a contract extension and even trading him, felt LeBron was not grateful the Lakers drafted Bronny, begrudgingly gave him a contract extension.
Right there. First of all, if I'm LeBron James Jr. And I read that headline, like, can't come back. You can't come back from that. Like, your dad wasn't grateful enough that we drafted your sorry ass. Like, that is the worst claim I think I have heard an owner say about a player at all. And we heard Jerry Jones calling Micah Parsons Michael the entire
Bills
time.
Owner yesterday was talking about Keon Coleman like he was a sack of rocks that somebody left on their front door, dude.
That one was
pretty
brutal
bad
too. But yeah, I mean, newsflash, LeBron James, like, has a massive ego. Like, that's where we're at? Like,
that's kind of what it seems like. Or Jeannie Buss has a massive ego as well. And both of them just don't want to admit that they hate each other.
I don't like that LeBron James has as big of an impact on how people feel about my organization. Like, that's everywhere he's ever been ever. So why are you surprised when something like that happens? I don't know. Yeah, I did see that. I mean, I feel bad for Bronny out of all of that. Like, that
again,
is just
real caught a stray bullet. That's like the worst stray
he's
bullet
just
possible.
trying to grow up. He's just trying to be a man in the league, and unfortunately, you got there because of your dad. So that's why we got.
But he
there.
also knew that. Come on,
yeah.
Let's
sure.
be real.
Hey, thanks for coming along for the ride, Wisconsin Sports Daily. Jim Callis, MLB Pipeline, going to join the show tomorrow. Talk more about this Freddie Peralta trade and the prospects coming over for Milwaukee. Shout out to Charlie Usen producing the program. Wisconsin Sports Wrap Up is going to come up after this. Eli Berkovitz, you got Trey Crosby, and you got Lane Grindle, another Brewers, Bucks, Packers, all in there for you coming up in the next hour. Thank you guys so much. Tommy Wirtz been here with you in place of Steve Sparky Pfeiffer. He returns tomorrow, so do not worry. Make sure you tune back into the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network as well, starting at 6 a.m. inside Wisconsin Sports with Trevor and Josh. Gets the morning started for you. Live from the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook.